As Steven Tyler would say, I'm back in the saddle again. What is up, upstate South Carolina? Hello, America. Hello, world. It is great to be back with you again. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. This is ESPN Upstate. Rested, recovered, comfortable, sore because I'm getting old and playing shows is getting tougher and tougher. But you know what? We persevere. We slap the Play Like a Champion Today sign on the way into the arena where Lonzo and I currently sit, and we are prepared for 2 hours and 56 minutes of sports talk excellence to start right now. This is the Rob Brown Show. I am Rob Brown. Directly across from me on the other side of the glass, both literally and metaphorically today, the great one, hashtag Dad Kicks, Colonel Grudge, the Alpha and the Omega of ESPN Upstate, the content cash cow, Lonzo, in charge of the broadcast. What up, Zoe?
All right, I have to say I am a little bit concerned because I think there might be an alternate universe version of Rob sitting across from me because he's wearing black. And I don't recall ever seeing him wearing just a plain black, it's a V-neck, but a plain black T-shirt. And it's like, are you really Rob Brown? Where's the color, man? What's going on?
The red flannel's in the office. I just forgot to put it on before I came in here.
That was a good move because it's a little toasty in here.
Yeah,
I think,
a little warm.
I think we know who was probably in here, so we probably need to fix it. Oh, actually, he was in here.
So. 100%. The flannel's in the other room, so you just get, you know what, this is just back to basics today, Lonzo. We got to get back every now and then. You just got a hard reset.
Your basics are usually like purple and pink and stuff. It's not just straight up Johnny Cash black, man. It's weird.
Sometimes you just got to go old school, buddy.
Admittedly, I am looking at the arms to make sure the tattoos are on the right arm, and they appear to be, because if that tattoo was on the other arm, I'm out of here.
We have got a show lined up for you today, ladies and gentlemen. 1,000,001 things to talk about, which we will be getting through. The Olympics are over, so we're going to break down the medal count and ask the question, should we continue the Winter Olympics? The ratings were an absolute disaster. The socio-political atmosphere around them was embarrassing for just about everybody involved. We're going to talk about that later on in the show. I've got some thoughts after a weekend to think about the college football playoffs decision not to expand. I've got some thoughts, as do some other folks. I got to tell you, I don't like this. It does not make me feel good to say this, but not one, Lonzo, but two Stephen A. Smith takes that I agreed with over the weekend. Oh, it makes me shudder a little bit. I got not one, but two Stephen A. Smith takes I agree with.
More proof that this is not the real Rob Brown.
I know. You know what? I'm not questioning myself, as a matter of fact. I'm not questioning my own identity at this point. We got to talk about this Juwan Howard thing a little bit. What a ridiculous ass story that's turned into, right? Like Juwan Howard thought he was on the Fab Five again, out there slinging fists during the handshake line. Nice, classy Michigan. Sure, Lonzo's got some takes queued up for that.
A whole lot of figures.
Yeah. There it is. That's the whole take right there. Yep. Sounds like Michigan.
Lip curl, a little disdain in my facial expression right now.
Just a touch.
Yeah.
A secondary football league that is not the National Football League has done something that I think is going to go a long way in giving us a second option for football entertainment during the non-NFL season. And it took a professional wrestler to get it done. We're going to talk about that coming up later on in the show and a whole lot more. We are going to be stacked from start to finish. Phone lines open, 844-GSP, ESPN, 844-477-3776. Preferred Home Services text lines open at 71307. Start your text with ESPN, and we will read them on the air. Let's get the show started. Why wait?
Let's do lunch.
This is a very nutritious lunch. All the food groups are represented.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here?
The Lunch Breakdown. The 3 things you have to know before you go start talking sports with your friends, family, coworker, or the dog. Whoever you happen to spend your lunch break with when you sit down to discuss the sports du jour. This will be the scuttlebutt. These will be the top 3 things you were talking about today. We start with item number 1. This week is a massive week in the negotiations between Major League Baseball and the Major League Baseball Players Association. Why? Because Thursday is the day that is expected to decide whether or not the regular season starts on time. It is going to take some massive negotiations in order to get to a point where some progress can be made and the regular season is not threatened. I got asked over the weekend. I was down in the FLA spending some time with some amigos this weekend, one of whom said, Rob, how big of a deal is it if opening day gets pushed back? And I got some thoughts I'm going to share with you later on in the show. But before we get there, I'm going to go to a couple of clips right out the gate, if you don't mind, please, Lonzo. And I'm going to start with clip number 1. This is ESPN reporter Jesse Rogers. Rogers has been covering the meetings between MLB and the Players Association. They had one early last week that lasted 15 minutes, just to give you a clue. Then they went a little bit harder in the paint over the weekend, up to and including setting multiple meetings yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and Thursday morning to try to get prepared to reach an agreement and get the regular season started on time. Jesse Rogers was in on those meetings, and here's what he had to say about where baseball and the PA stand.
Not a lot. And you'd think after 5 hours, there would have been a little more progress to report on. The Major League offer, the latest ones, they've tweaked a little bit, adding $5 million to a pre-arbitration pool. They also added another team to a NBA-style lottery draft. So now 4 teams is the offer from MLB. But you'd think, again, after 5 hours, there'd be more movement. Now, they did caucus within their own groups there for a while. So there was a meeting, and they retreated to their own rooms, and then they met again. Players Zoomed with other players, and then they met again, and just felt like there might be some progress there. But both sides came out of that meeting and did not indicate much that got done. The union is kind of waiting on the league waiting on the union when it comes to this CBT. That's the big issue here. They want to raise that first threshold so some of the richer teams can spend more money on some of the better players. And both sides are kind of waiting for the other side to make that game-changing proposal. We didn't see it today.
So that's where it stands. Jeff Passan, Clip 1A, has also obviously been covering this extensively. Now, for the record, sped this clip. I did not remove anything that Jeff Passan had to say, but I did speed this clip up a little bit because he went on, but I think it's important to hear what he had to say. He pointed out just how far apart these two sides are. Here's Jeff Passan from ESPN.
Jeremy, the Major League Baseball Players Association presented really one main economic item. They've been standing firm on arbitration for players after 2 years. Currently, it's at 3 years, and they came off of arbitration for all players and are requesting it for 80%. At the same time, the bonus pool for pre-arbitration players that they've been negotiating, they actually raised the number on that from $100 million to $115 million. Major League Baseball is at $15 million now. So if you want to illustrate where we are in this moment, I'd say that $100 million gap between the parties on that one subject alone is a pretty good sign of how these negotiations have gone.
How prepared are the players to forego paychecks if this impasse continues?
I mean, the $1 million question, Jeremy, or the $1 billion question if we're talking about the revenues in this industry. I will say this. I've been covering baseball for about 20 years now, and I, before this, had never seen a labor stoppage. I also have never seen players come together as much as they have right now. And the question is not how together are they right now. It's how together are they if opening day is missed, if they start losing paychecks, and are there going to be any cracks in the union? You look historically, and that's always gives you a great sense sense of where this whole thing is going. You look historically, and when the union made its most gains from the early 1970s through really 1990 or so, it did so on the strength of its membership. And that's something that they have been preaching at meetings across the country, down in the Dominican Republic. They're trying to tell players, you may have your differences, you may play for different teams, you may not like one another, but unless the 1,200 of us in this union stick together, Major League Baseball is going to do the same thing it's done over the last 15, 20 years, which is make even more gains on us.
$100 million apart in arbitration, and they are working their way towards each other at a clip of like $5 million a week between the two. Now, I'm bad at math. I'm a words guy. But that's going to take a very long time to reach a middle ground if they keep working at the pace that they're on. I'll talk more about that later on in the show. Item number 2 on the lunch breakdown, a monumental weekend in women's sports. Players from the United States women's national soccer team have settled their class action equal pay lawsuit against the U.S. Soccer Federation for a total of $24 million, received in a lump sum payment of $22 million, with the rest of it going into a fund that will provide for U.S. women's national team players when their playing careers come to an end. Should they find themselves in trouble, U.S. Soccer will pay an additional $2 million to benefit the women's national players in their post-career goals and charitable efforts related to women's and girls soccer. Each player for the U.S. women's national team will be able to apply for up to $50K out of that fund. Now, the settlement is contingent on a new collective bargaining agreement being ratified by the players on the women's team. Once this takes place, final approval of the settlement by the district court will be scheduled. And according to a statement from the players, they believe that, quote, this will fully resolve the litigation, end quote. On top of that, the most important part of this to the women on that team, the USSF has also committed to providing an equal rate of pay going forward for the women's and men's national teams, quote, in all friendlies and tournaments, including the World Cup, end quote. Megan Rapinoe, who, of course, was one of the most recognized faces on the women's national team for many years, said, quote, there's no real justice in this other than this never happening again. With the settlement of the working conditions in this settlement, which is contingent upon a CBA that will have equal pay going forward, there's no other way to look at it than just a monumental win for women's sports and women's soccer in particular, end quote. The U.S. Women's National Team's Players Association put out a statement saying that, quote, we congratulate the players and their litigation team on their historic success in fighting decades of discrimination perpetuated by the U.S. Soccer Federation. Although the settlement reached today is an incredible success, much work remains to be done. The players had previously been seeking about $66.7 million in back pay, but the settlement amounts to what they considered a significant moral victory for the players, who have long been speaking out about not receiving as much as the men team on a per game basis, despite the fact that the women's team has been exponentially more successful than the men's team has over the years. The numbers have been out in the past, and it is very clear that the women's side just did not make as much as the men. That's just the fact. The primary sticking point was the respective bonus structures in each contract. If you made a World Cup team on the men's side, you were paid $67,000 for making the roster. The women, less than $38,000. A win by the USMNT against a team outside the top 25 in the FIFA rankings would earn a player $9,375. A loss resulted in a payment of $5,000 for the women. A win against a ranked team got them a bonus, and this is against a ranked team outside the top 8, netted them $5,250, which is only $250,000 more than the men received for a loss. Winning the World Cup, which is obviously a great long shot for the men, winning the World Cup for the men, $407,600 bonus. The women win the World Cup, $110,000. They got $110 to the men's $407. So overall, depending on the bonus, the women earning anywhere from 25 to 60% of what the men earn, despite the fact that the men have been nowhere near as successful as the women's side over the past 15 years or so. In a lot of other sports, I think the equal pay discussion gets bogged down. Like, for instance, the NBA and the WNBA, right? I've seen countless people making the argument that WNBA players should be paid as much as NBA players. It's just not possible. It's just not possible. We're not there yet where the WNBA has anywhere near the amount of revenue coming in as the NBA does. But in the world of soccer, the women's team has been more visible, has sold more tickets, and has produced more trophies than the men's side. I think this one was probably a while coming.
So does this bonus come when they get wins, right? Or is this bonus no matter what?
Oh, this is for making the team. This is for making the World Cup
See,
team. This is wins against
if you
ranked and unranked
want to be fair as far as pay goes, you get bonuses for winning. If you don't win, you don't get a bonus. And it doesn't matter what gender you are. If you don't win, you don't get a bonus. And if that's how it was, the women would be getting paid and the men wouldn't be. But there wouldn't be any complaints either way if you put it on whether you win or not. So I get a bonus just because I said yes on the dotted line and agreed to be a part of the team.
Yeah, I think this is how you keep attracting people to play for it, right? Like, you've got to keep putting money on the table. I understand that a lot of us, for guys like you and I, who never have a chance of representing the U.S. in anything other than the International Sports Talk Radio Olympics, which I'm sure will be organized in a year now. If you want the best soccer players in the world who are already putting on 65, 70, 75 matches per year for their respective clubs, you got to give them a reason to play for the U.S. other than the pride of the jersey if you want to field a competitive team.
Well, and you also, in my opinion, you should – a reason to sign with the team is the bonus you get if you win, not just for signing with the team. If you want true fairness, make it on victories, not on gender or anything else. You come in, you play for us, you win more. That's how that works. That's how it works in other professional sports. You get paid more when you make it into playoffs. You get paid more when you win the Super Bowl or the NBA championship. Should be the same for soccer. Why is it different?
We are going to talk more about this later on in the show because I do find it interesting as a discussion. Texter says, if I'm not mistaken, didn't the women make more than the men already? Sounds like a scam. Also, Megan Rapinoe sucks. No, they didn't. They didn't. There's your numbers right there. Just gave you the numbers. They did not. Look, you don't have to like Megan Rapinoe's politics, but she's not wrong. She's not wrong. And a texter says the press release lives out about how the women's soccer pay structure is that the women's bonuses are lower because they wanted a guaranteed salary and maternity benefits. They opted for the guaranteed pay over the bonus, and that is one reason why it's lower. They were offered the same deal. The men got turned it down. I'm actually going to come back to that later because I did some research on that. So hang in there with that text, and I'll come back to it. Let's see. Item number 3 on the lunch breakdown today. 2 spots of news about the Carolina Panthers quarterback situation. Number 1, Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk released a news story over the weekend that said that last year, and no big shock here, no big shock, but last year the Carolina Panthers did make a play for Deshaun Watson. In the face of the legal issues that he is staring down right now, in the face of the legal issues, the Panthers were ready to make a play for Deshaun Watson, and Deshaun Watson said no, that he would not waive his no-trade clause to come play for the Carolina Panthers, would not come play for Matt Rule and the Panthers, which kind of already had the idea that happened, right? Kind of already got the impression that had happened. We knew that Carolina was in the market trying to get Deshaun. We knew that the conversation had happened. And obviously we knew that Deshaun Watson did not show up. The most likely reason why was either that Houston asked too much, which I doubt, or number 2, that Deshaun just said no. Mike Florio saying that is the case. And on top of that, we found out from Anthony Rizzuti of the Charlotte Observer that the Carolina Panthers reached out to the Minnesota Vikings about acquiring Kirk Cousins to come down and be the starting quarterback in Charlotte next year.
Which is a more desperate move? Trying to go after a guy who didn't play it down last season and may never play again, or Kirk Cousins? Which is a more
Kirk Cousins, right?
I got to agree with you there.
Bringing Deshaun in is a Hail Mary, right? But you know that if the Hail Mary connects, it's a TD. If the Deshaun story works out, which, by the way, there's breaking news on that. I'm going to tell you what that is coming up in just a minute. But the Deshaun Watson thing's a Hail Mary. And if that Hail Mary, if Kirk Cousins throws a Hail Mary, it's getting picked at the 10 and coming back, right? And I got nothing against Kirk Cousins. I got no issue with Kirk Cousins. Not my favorite guy in the world.
Way to scam everybody into thinking that you're a good quarterback and making a lot of money from two different teams.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't think Kirk Cousins is bad. Do I think he's going to come in and be a dramatic upgrade over Sam Darnold? He'll be a bit of an upgrade over Sam Darnold. But, like,
I don't think you're exactly certain about that, because I'm not.
I think he's a bit of an upgrade over Sam Darnold. Nowhere near what you need if you're gunning for 8 wins in a wild card spot this year, which is the only thing to say. Could you imagine having your job on the line and thinking to yourself, how about Kirk Cousins to be my Superman? Huh. Yeah, I have more things to say. Shocking. I know. I'm Rob, he's Lonzo, and this is ESPN Upstate. To my friends at Harley Davidson of Greenville, ladies and
Because
Yeah, we can say on.
I'm taking this back. We
Perfect.
weren't on, so I was putting this back on.
So those of you watching on the stream, I'm asking you and Lonzo, would you want to see Paul McCartney is going on tour, and the Paul McCartney Got Back tour, which I'm assuming is a play on Get Back. And I'll be real with you, like there's a part of me that says I want McCartney Got Back. Bum, 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 bum. I'd have to say yes just to say I've seen Paul McCartney, a legend in person.
If you watch any of that documentary about the Beatles and you see the creative process and what Paul McCartney was able to do each time he wrote a song, it'd be worth it to just go watch him perform, even if it was just him on the piano. And he hasn't really, lost that much.
Yeah. I realized this funny enough, this came up over the weekend. My mom's got the, the music channels on cable where there's just,
Yeah.
She found one that played a bunch of Wing songs, and I realized I hate Wing. I don't know why.
Band on the Run? You hate Band on the Run?
There's like 2 songs of Wing that I like, but for the most part, I don't like Wing. They're just not they're not my groove. But I think I'd have to go see Paul McCartney just to say I saw a legend, right? I think I'd have to say yes.
Yeah, but the tickets are probably like $1,000 a piece.
Welcome in, Skrilla. Good to see you, my guy. Thanks for joining the party. No caller?
He's gone.
Okay. Who was it?
Huh?
Who was it?
Nate.
Well, Nate, I was coming right to you, but you hung up as we were coming back from break. If you want to give us a call back, I'd love to have you on. You're welcome to. Rest of you guys, phone line's open for you as well at 844-GSP-ESPN, 844-477-3776. Text us. The preferred home services text line is 71307. Start your text with ESPN. We'll read them on the air. So the Panthers made a play for Deshaun. Deshaun said, thanks, but no thanks, which is, again, kind of what I assume had happened, right? The Panthers seemed like a spot that Deshaun would fit in. They clearly were willing to risk the potential fallout of the multiple civil suits and potential criminal suits that Deshaun Watson is still
What
facing.
were they going to do if they brought him in? Were they going to get rid of the other quarterbacks and just not have a quarterback?
I don't know. I think the expectation for them was, especially Matt Rule at the time, team's not as good as we'd like. Yeah. He's on the table. We can bring him in, plug him in. If he wants to play, we can let him play. We'll be better than we are now. And if he gets suspended by the league, we just go back to where we were, but maybe we stack a couple of wins up in the meantime. And if he doesn't, and he's not allowed to play, then we're not going to have to pay him anyway. What's the harm? I think that was the belief, the lottery that Matt Rule was willing to play. But Deshaun Watson said, thanks, but no thanks. I don't want to be there. I don't want to be there. I'll hold out for Miami, or it appears that Minnesota and Tampa Bay are the 3 potential landing spots for Deshaun. Should A, any of them want them or want him, and B, any of them be willing to pay what we suspect is going to be a very high price in order to bring Deshaun into play quarterback for that. But then Florio broke the news over the weekend that the Panthers reached out to the Minnesota Vikings to bring in Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins. I had to tell you, Zoe, knowing that you still owe Sam Darnold money, knowing that you've still got PJ Walker on the books, knowing that you just got done paying buku dinero to Teddy Bridgewater to not be your quarterback anymore, honestly, if Kirk Cousins is your best option, I think I'd just keep Sam Darnold under center and invest that money in the offensive line, right?
It's like they're looking around the league and trying to find someone who should be a backup but's the starter to bring in again. I just heard a report on this earlier, and I just started yelling at my radio, at my computer. It was like, what?
We were sitting in the office show prepping this morning, And Lonzo and I talk, we talk in the office about whatever, wrestling and video games and sports and whatever else is going on. Partially as show prep and partially just because we talk. And it goes quiet for a second. I keep my headphones on while I'm editing our audio for the show together, but I hear out of nowhere, "Are you kidding me?" And I'm like, "Lonzo, what is wrong?" Because ordinarily, if one or the other has, audio we want the other person to listen to or a video to watch, we'll either grab the attention, "Hey, Zo, check this out. Look at this thing I just found." Or we just play that audio and assume the other person's going to hear it. I wasn't really paying attention because I was editing together some stuff from Tom Izzo about the Juwan Howard situation. And I hear Lonzo go, "Are you kidding?" I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "The local dude just reported that the Panthers tried to get Kirk Cousins." And my response was just, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, do your research. Make sure that he's not making this up." And I did, and he was not.
And I was hoping that maybe he got the story wrong.
Yeah.
I was hoping that I just have to kill the sports flash because there was a wrong story that somehow he got from like his neighbor or something. I don't know. But no, it's a real story. Panthers went after Kirk Cousins.
They
Can't wait to hear what Rashawn says about that.
I was just going to say, is it Thursday yet? Is it 1:00 on Thursday to get Shad in here and ask him, he of the please don't do another cast-off quarterback, how do you feel about Matt Rule calling Kirk Cousins to be the guy next year? I got to tell you, you may have to ride the dump button on Rashad when he finds out that news, right? Like, I'm glad he's going to have a couple of days to digest that because I don't think Shad is going to be happy. I don't think are there any Panthers fans that heard that news and went, "Yeah, that'll help. That's what we needed. That's the piece that's going to put us over the edge."
Or did they
Kirk
go,
Cousins.
"Man, I'm paying a lot of money for these season tickets, and you're going after that?
Kirk Cousins.
I can use that money for something else."
Oh, my goodness. Kirk Cousins. That's the move? All right. I've told you guys how many times I truly, genuinely believe that the problem with the Carolina Panthers emanates in the front office, right? Like, don't get me wrong. I have soured on Matt Rule. I thought when Matt Rule showed up, I thought, all right, this guy's got a chance, right? He's known as a guy that can build a program. And even though they were all in college, the foundation's there. I think it's got potential. I'm over it. And it's to be honest with you, it's less about the on-field coaching decisions of Matt Rule. It's less about the way that Matt Rule handles his team from whistle to whistle, and more about the way that he and Fitzy run this squad, right? This is your decision. Knowing full well that next year you need to have the best year of your career, like by a lot. Not another 5-win season. You got to get to 8 or 9 and try to wild card the playoffs if you want a shot to keep your job. And your thought was, let's go get Minnesota Vikings legend Kirk Cousins and bring him down. That's your play? Draft a quarterback, right? If that's the play you're going to make, just draft a quarterback. Right now, Lonzo, Jimmy G or Kirk Cousins? Who's your guy?
Jimmy G.
Yeah. Jimmy Garoppolo's out there. You know he's out at San Francisco. You know they're moving to Trey Lance next year. Jimmy G's floating out there, and you made a call to Kirk Cousins. And I'm not faulting Kirk Cousins, right?
I am.
I think Kirk Cousins is an above-average quarterback who got very lucky and won a couple of lotteries to fall into some really high-paying jobs.
He's an Amway salesman. So do we blame him for selling Amway, or do we blame ourselves for buying the Amway?
I mean, not us, not me buying it.
I
I
mean,
never bought Kirk Cousins as the missing piece. But you're right. Kirk Cousins is the Tupperware of quarterbacks. You get a dude that walks in, tells you how great, how revolutionary, how life-changing this is going to be. He shows up and you go, it's It's the exact same as everything else in my house I already store food in. It's the exact same. It doesn't do anything better. He's the Uncle Rico of quarterbacks in the NFL right now, right? Now, I'm not mad at Kirk Cousins because here's the thing. All of us in our life do the best we can to convince people that we should get more money than we do for our job, no matter how adequate at best we are at it. Trust me, I know. But if you're the Panthers and you're in a spot right now where you're going, I need 8 or 9 wins. I need a wild card spot in the playoffs. I've got to get there if I want a chance. Let me call Kirk Cousins. I already questioned your decision making. I already questioned the folks that are in charge of making the phone calls up there in Charlotte. I'm watching and I don't mean to disrespect the team before they even take to the pitch for the first time, but I'm looking at the way that Charlotte FC is being conducted by the same ownership, by the way, and the fact that their head coach said 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks before their first match as a team, Lonzo, do you remember what the head coach of that team said?
Oh, that they were screwed, I believe.
He said, we are screwed.
By the way, back to the Kirk Cousins thing. This isn't one guy making this decision, right? So a room of people had to say, yeah, that's a good idea. No, it's not.
Why do you think I've been telling y'all? The problem with the Panthers is the decision-making in the front office, right? The leadership on the field's a problem. It's not ideal. It's not great. But it can be dramatically worse, right? We've seen other teams be less well-coached than the Panthers have been from whistle to whistle. It is the decision-making that is the problem. And when you decide that your back's against the wall and your option is, let's go get Kirk Cousins out of Minnesota, that'll save us. You know what that is? That is the football equivalent of, let's have a baby. That'll fix the marriage. No, it won't. No, it's going to make it dramatically worse. You have already got your back against the wall. You are already facing a very ugly real-life situation. Throwing a baby into the mix is not going to fix it. It's going to make it worse. Panthers throwing a Kirk Cousins into the mix is just going to drive you further apart from a solution, man. The decision-making has been, and remains the problem. And here you go again. Let's take a break. Come back. Clear that up. You got any thoughts, Panthers fans? I want to hear them, but I expect that I won't, right? I expect that I won't. After the 3-game winning streak to start the season, after the 3-game winning streak you guys went on early in the season, Panthers fans are remarkably quiet. You guys have nothing to say about your franchise, which, as far as I'm concerned, is all I need to hear about your franchise right now. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show, ESPN Upstate.
Made during 5 hours of discussions yesterday on core economic issues, including revenue sharing and minimum salaries. The league has said a new collective bargaining agreement needs to be in place by next Monday for the regular season to begin on time. For the latest on this story, tune into the 6 Eastern Sports Center on ESPN TV and the ESPN app. NFL receiver Jarvis Landry says he's putting the ball in Cleveland's court. Tweeted today he'd like to stay with the Browns, but added he's confident he can still be a piece for another team in winning a championship. Landry had only 570 yards receiving, caught 2 touchdowns in an injury-plagued 2021 season when he played 12 games. He is not a free agent, but has no guaranteed money left on his current contract.
The English Market Studio is ESPN Upstate. 97.7 FM Bloomington, 97.1 FM Spartanburg. ESPN Upstate.
An Odyssey station.
There's nothing worse than coming home from a cold day to find out that your heater isn't working. When this happens, you need an HVAC company you can trust. A company like Priority Heating and Air. Their HVAC specialist will give your system a thorough checkup. And if you need a new unit, Priority Heating and Air is a proud distributor of the Coleman line of HVAC systems. So keep your family or business warm this winter and get Priority Heating and Air
Steven. Oh, man. So the U.S. played New Zealand, and a girl on the Kiwi team, Lonzo, had 3 goals, all of them against her own team on accident.
Really?
3 own goals by that poor girl. Like, scoring an own goal is bad. She did it 3 times.
Sort of thing, and get you kicked off the team.
Uh-huh.
Medication that treats ED at affordable prices. Hims ED medication has the same active ingredient as Viagra, but because it's generic, you pay 90% less. That's right, 90% less. A whole month's supply is just $30, and it's sent right to your home for free in discreet packaging. Hims offers the same medication you get from your doctor, but without the copay, expensive appointments, or awkward face-to-face conversations. And with Hims, every online visit is free, and your relationship right back on track. For a free online consultation, go to forhims.com/joy. That's forhims.com/joy for your free visit. forhims.com/joy.
If I'm going to work from my home office, I need my home office to work for me. It's possible at Staples. To be most productive, my home office needs to have everything my office has. Also possible because your local Staples store has the tools your business needs to get work done from home. And right now, you can save up to 40% on select chairs to put the finishing touch on your home office. Explore what's new at Staples, the working and learning store. Ends 2/26.
So she didn't get pulled even after the 3rd one?
I don't know. I didn't get to watch it. I was working. Rob Lonzo and you, the Rob Brown Show's on your radio. This is ESPN. Up that door just opened, right? I'm not losing my mind.
It did.
Okay.
You're good.
All right.
You're all right.
Struggling. All right. A couple other things I wanted to get to in this hour of the show. Clip number 4, if you don't mind. I got to tell you guys, so I went down to Florida for the weekend, and I did it for a couple of reasons. Number one, 3-day weekend. Wanted to spend some time with the fam. Haven't gotten to see them in a couple of months, so wanted to go back and hang out with La Familia. Number 2, every year, the guys in my band put on a music festival that my very dear friend and the bassist in my band, Tom Siren, started, I think 14 years ago we started it. And we bring 11 different artists that record around Fort Walton Beach together and throw a big music festival. And we usually run 10, 12 grand or so for the American Cancer Society. And I never missed that show. So I went home to play in a rock show on Sunday night. Well, it got to be Monday morning, and I jumped on ESPN Monday morning before I got in the car to drive back. And they're going through the events of the weekend, and they said Steph Curry dropped 50 points in the All-Star game. 16 three-pointers made. It's an All-Star game record he shares with 2 other players. And I had a sudden realization, Lonzo, that I, by the way, am an NBA fan, right? I still watch the league. I got my complaints like everybody else, but I still watch the association. I still watch games. Not only did I not watch a moment of the All-Star Weekend festivities, I forgot they were on this weekend. Now, I watched a handful of NBA games the last couple of weeks, some of the bigger marquee matchups. I watched the Suns game the other night, see how they're gonna work without Chris Paul. I've watched a little bit, not as much as I probably should. Now that football's over, I'll make the switch over to get some more basketball in. Despite having watched some games, I forgot the All-Star game and the events were on.
My wife was watching it when I got home Saturday night, watching the 3-point contest was on. And I watched a few seconds of it, and the slam dunk contest was coming on. I'm like, yeah, I'm not watching that. And then Sunday, I knew it was on, and I kept thinking, yeah, I'm going to turn it on, but I'm doing something else. So it doesn't, it's not like years past when it, and I don't know that I'm less of a fan, or maybe it's just because it doesn't really mean anything. Or maybe I was so soured by the few moments of the Pro Bowl that I watched that I couldn't fathom watching that happen on another sport, so I couldn't watch.
It might be fair. Now, listen, I've said about the All-Star game, same thing I've said about the Pro Bowl for a number of years, right? Which is, if you tune in to watch a basketball game, you're going to be disappointed because it's not a basketball game, right? It's a skills exhibition dressed up as a basketball game. But ordinarily, Lonzo, I really enjoy the dunk contest. I really enjoy the 3-point shooting contest. I enjoy the skills position because I like to watch the best athletes in the world, or at least the best basketball players in the world, put on an exhibition to show how much better they are than the guys I go shoot around at the Y.
You know, I could go back to say, yeah, I remember when it used to be good when Jordan was there, Dominique Wilkins, all those guys. But it's not about that for me. It's about the misses. The misses are so bad.
Well, then you would have loved the dunk contest this year. You know, it's not often Stephen A. Smith and I agree on anything. But listen to Stephen A. roast the dunk contest that I didn't even watch.
Because I want to look at you when I say this to a national television audience. That was the worst slam dunk contest in the history of basketball. It was a national atrocity. It was awful. Somebody need to say it, so I'm going to say it. Now, I'm happy that a Knick won something. We actually had a New York Knick that won something. That was Obi Toppin, okay? It was so bad. It was so bad. It's one of the rare moments that I think we should actually hide a trophy. We should actually hide the trophy. That's how bad it was. I would like Adam Silver, Mark Tatum, Tim Frank, and everybody else I know at the NBA office to expect a call from me. This week's holiday today, but expect a call from me this week because I'm dead serious. I don't blame y'all for laughing, but I'm dead serious. They gonna hear from me. We cannot have this atrocity showing up on a Saturday night for NBA All-Star Weekend. It was a national embarrassment. Listen, here's what I put in perspective. I'm 54 years old. I struggled, Kendrick Perkins, with bad knees. And guess what? I could have missed that many dunks. I mean, you didn't do anything I didn't do. I couldn't do. Who can't miss dunks all the damn time? And if you Obi Toppin, I saw you do it in the game, but somehow you missed. You Toscano Anderson, when the hell did you dunk like that before? I heard that you don't do that in practice. How the hell you gonna do it at a slam dunk contest? Cole Anthony, major love for him and promise. I love his game. I love all of their games. And Jalen Green, I love all of their potential. I'm not knocking them as players or anything like that. But you Cole Anthony, you're not a dunker. So if you're going to dunk, what the hell are you doing putting on Timberlands for? I love your daddy. He's a friend of mine. He going to get a call from me too. What the hell was that? What, the Timberlands? Really? I mean, you got to be kidding me.
Love it.
Somebody get Perkins some oxygen and turn his mic off.
Perk was about to fall out. I thought Ken was going to fall out his seat laughing. And here's the thing. I know Stephen A. Smith likes to go too far. He gets a little obnoxious, but he's dead on right. He's dead on right. If that's what we're going to do for the All-Star game, you might as well cancel the damn thing. Because that's kind of stuff that's supposed to get you hyped for the All-Star game. And then you run it out, those guys missing those dunks like that, ain't going to work. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show, ESPN Upstate.
Sad part is I knew who that was by him nearly choking to death. It's like, yeah, I recognize that laugh.
I thought Perk was going to fall out of his seat laughing.
Don't assume that steroid shots, pain pills, and surgery are your only option. You can now get real, lasting, life-changing relief from QC Kinetics. Hey everybody, it's Johnny James. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in using biologic therapies to repair damaged tissue in your aching joints. The success rate is staggering. People with knee and back pain, shoulder pain, hip pain, they're moving again. They're enjoying life again. And you will too with the help from QC Kinetics.
That's got potential to be a decent little fight, doesn't it?
I don't know. Masvidal, it's not really been that good lately. When's the last time he won a fight?
I couldn't even tell you.
I think the last couple of fights he's lost. It's funny that pops up and then it pops up on trending all of a sudden.
This is important news. If you have unfiled tax returns, the IRS is shifting gears and ramping up investigations on non-filers this year. If you fail to file your tax returns for a year or more, or you owe back taxes, now's the time to call Optima Tax Relief before the IRS finds you. Optima is America's
35 and 15. That is a lot of fights.
It is. It's definitely a draw, though, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Depending on what else is on the card, I might actually buy that.
I could sit down and watch Colby Covington and Jorge.
Plus, the lead into that fight's going to be kind of
a good
fun,
card
too.
around it. I haven't.
No,
even
I'm talking about the talking.
Oh, the smack talk. Yeah.
Starting pay at $16.80 an hour, and maintenance technicians with starting pay at $32.50 an hour. Rate increases after 90 days. Don't miss their hiring events every Thursday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at 141 South Chase Boulevard at Fountain Inn.
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel teaches you conversations that you will actually.
Oh, that's a great save.
14 languages and less than topics.
And then he bats it out of the air with his hand. Yeah. I know you got a glove on. I still got to hurt.
Oh, this is Malden. Made the Sports Spinner top 10.
Let that gym look familiar.
Yep.
What a block. Oh.
That man's ancestors are going to feel that one.
So now is the time for incredible savings on PCs, along with servers, monitors, and racks, all with free shipping and quick installation and setup through Dell Installation Services. Get started by shopping online or contacting your Dell Technologies advisor today at 877-ASK-DELL. Again, the number to call is 877-ASK-DELL.
This report is sponsored by Mattress Firm. Unjunk your sleep during the President's Day sale at Mattress Firm. Shop now and get a king bed for a queen price.
See, that's what I was saying earlier, Steven. We started off the show with me saying something like, yeah.
And just like that, 1 hour's in the books. Just like that. It's like riding a bike, man. Come back from a long weekend, right back on the horse, away we go. 2 hours left. When we come back, talk about this Juwan Howard thing, because it is, what's the word I'm looking for here? Stupid. That and more. Second hour's busy. Stick around for it on the Rob Brown Show, ESPN Upstate.
Download the Score app today. Lightning fast sports alerts so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. With your ESPN Upstate Sports Center update, I'm Matt Pauley.
Have you heard Offsides with Mark Brown?
Coach Jason Brown, you know him from Last Chance U.
From your smart speaker.
I know you're out there, touching things again, but who was there for you when you didn't want to touch anything? When all you had to do was ask, and you got all the information you wanted from a trusted source.
Still the best way to stay in touch with Upstate sports happenings.
Go ahead, touch your nasty phone. See if I care.
On air, on your smart speaker, or any smart device.
And don't give me any of that it's not you, it's me nonsense.
This is ESPN Upstate.
Hour numero dos to the Rob Brown Show goes out. This is ESPN Upstate. Hello, Upstate South Carolina. Hello, America. Hello, world. I am Rob Brown, the great with Lonzo on the other side of the glass. Thank you very much for joining us here on the radio broadcast. I'm going to get into the discussion about the Juwan Howard story coming up in a minute. Joe Giglio of BetQL is going to join us at 1:35. We walked you through a betting guide for the NFL playoffs. We'll take a look at some college basketball and NBA basketball. Some thoughts on where you should drop some coin if you're into that life with Joe Giglio coming up. Juwan Howard's stories coming up and a lot more. But let me grab clips 5 and 5A. I'll start with clip number 5 here, if you don't mind, Lonzo. Last week, we reported to you that the College Football Playoff Committee agreed to disagree. Heather Denich broke that story for ESPN when Heather pointed out that the CFP committee had decided not to expand the playoffs and that they would remain currently on the remaining years of the initial contract, which leaves us at a 4-team playoff through at least the 2025 season. So we're looking at 4 more years of 4 teams top. She also pointed out that this left $450 million in potential estimated revenue on the table. And I had some thoughts last week that some of you guys understood. Some of you guys thought that I was maybe being just a wee bit dramatic. And I wanted to talk about that. But I also wanted to bring up this clip. Paul Feinbaum, who, again, I have never been the biggest fan of Paul Feinbaum. I don't have anything personal against the guy, but it's just his style of show ain't my style of show, which is fine, right? We've told you this in radio. Not everybody's going to like you. It is what it is. It's not my bag. But Feinbaum every now and then has some good stuff. And he, on ESPN, was asked a little bit about the decision-making process that he believed the CFP went through to reach the conclusion they did. And here's what Paul Feinbaum had to say on ESPN.
This is a sad and embarrassing day for college football. I don't know how in the world we got here from where we were a couple of months ago. When this was announced as a working group, Hannah, there was celebration among the fans. And that's the thing that is so irritating to listen to these commissioners and executives talk. They cannot settle this when it was already settled after a 2-year investigation. And the biggest losers are the people that love the sport and support it. And they're also leaving hundreds of millions of dollars on the table, which just shows that their feudal fiefdoms are more important than making money for their member institutions. I cannot tell you how disappointing this is for the fans of college football and how utterly ridiculous it is that the leaders of this sport can't sit in a room and get this right. This is truly a dark moment in the history of college football.
With the fan bases at stake and all the money, as you mentioned, hundreds of millions of dollars, something like $450 million lost from the FBS schools and Notre Dame, is the fact that schools can't wrap their arms around things like NIL, because that was mentioned specifically by Heather. Some of these other issues in college football, does that feel like a reason to not have the playoff?
No, none whatsoever. They're completely different issues. I mean, you're talking about commissioners who are fighting for turf, fighting for when the Rose Bowl is going to be, when their leagues are going to be showcased, and with which network, and they're throwing up things that are red herrings. I mean, NIL and the Alston ruling are important issues. They're critical issues, but they have nothing to do with the CFP, Hannah. I'm shocked to hear commissioners throw that out. But then again, after covering the sport for nearly 40 years, nothing really should surprise me when it comes to the ineptitude of the leadership of this sport. There simply is none.
So there's Paul unloading, and justifiably so. And I think he's mad about the same thing that I'm mad at, right? $450 million on the table. College football fans not getting what the majority of us want out of the sport, and did so because there were a handful of college football commissioners and whatnot that were more concerned about, what did he call them? Their own fiefdoms. I love that. Their own little chunks of territory and representation on national media, et cetera, et cetera. And he's spot on accurate. He's spot on accurate. I think he's got a phenomenal point. I think he's exactly right. We told you last week that it was not just, as far as we know, or let me rephrase that. I'm working on the assumption that it was not just the smaller conferences at the table that derailed the expansion talk. Either, or maybe both, the Big Ten and the Pac-12 weren't on board, partially because they wanted to, as we talked about last week, protect the sanctity of the Rose Bowl. Above all else, right? They wanted to make sure the Rose Bowl was still theirs. The granddaddy of them all, featured Big Ten and Pac-12 teams and nobody else. Wanted to make sure that it was still featured as the premier bowl game in America. They wanted to ensure that they got their time to shine on national television. And again, I can't say this is a fact because I haven't heard that it is. I don't know that anybody has said that it is. I genuinely don't know. But I'm getting the impression that one, if not both of those conferences says, no, we're not going to 12 if it means that the Rose Bowl gets sacrificed as this sacred calf that it is. And I'm not a fan of that. Yeah. Like, I'm not a fan of that. I understand it has meant something to you. I understand it's a tradition to you. And I understand that there has been a lot of money on the table thanks to the Rose Bowl to you. I get all that. I really do. But your Rose Bowl, your tradition, your thing is not more important to me than the sport as a whole, right? Like, I don't think we should maintain this system that a lot of, not all, but a lot of us are unhappy with, a lot of us don't love, or at least a lot of us think can be improved, so that you can maintain the sanctity of a bowl game that only you care about, right? I don't think, and Lonzo, you're a Big Ten guy, so you may have a little more insight into this than I do, but I don't think there are a lot of SEC or ACC or Big 12 fans that go, my goodness gracious, can't wait for the Rose Bowl this year.
It's not just about that, by the way, and it's not all just the Rose Bowl's fault. There are a lot of factors that factor that you just kind of stuck on that one, which is fine because you're not a Big Ten guy. I love that the Rose Bowl is still going to remain Big Ten and Pac-12. I love the tradition of that. And it's not just about that. There's a bunch of money involved in that with the Rose Bowl parade and all that kind of stuff. And it loses some mystique if it doesn't remain the way it is. It's tradition, it's history. Will it go away eventually? Probably not, because they're fighting really hard for this. And the fact that it means this much to them, this is not derailing the whole thing. There's a combination of things, and it's not just this.
Oh, sure. There's more to it. There's more to it. And I think Paul's probably got some insight into that, which is why he was kind of up in arms about it as well. I know that there's more to it. I've been working under the assumption that the big sticking point was going to be the automatic qualifiers and, all right, 450 more mil in the kitty, but how are we going to distribute that amongst the bigger and smaller schools? I'm sure there was plenty more to go into it, but I think the point is there that this is something that a lot of us wanted to see happening. And as Paul pointed out, you got conferences that are going, yo, hold up. We feel like we're going to lose some TV time over this. And look, I get it. At the end of the day, in this job and just about every other job that requires publicity, the number one factor is publicity, right? Publicity brings dollars. Publicity is currency. So yeah, of course. But what's going to get you more publicity than having a system that's gonna keep fans engaged with the game and make more fans feel like they genuinely have a chance one year, as opposed to watching the same 4 or 5 teams do it over and over and over and over and over again every year, right? There's your pub right there. You're right. I am kind of picking on the Rose Bowl, but I think that is because those that want to protect the Rose Bowl are the most pretentious amongst the bowl protectors. Yeah. The folks who care the most are the Big Ten to the Pac-12. I don't hear ACC fans going out of their way going, we need to protect the Orange Bowl. I don't hear SEC fans, or at least as many, going, we need to verify that the Sugar Bowl is the college football cathedral that it is, because they just don't. At least not like I've heard Big Ten and Pac-12 fans do it for the Rose Bowl.
I'm going to go home and I'm going to look in the mirror for a good bit of time. I don't know how long that is, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe 2 hours, and try to see if I'm pretentious, because I'm not quite sure. But maybe if I look at myself long enough, I'll find it.
For the record, I'm not accusing of Lonzo of being pretentious. Lonzo is as humble as he is good looking. Just ask him. All right. He'll tell you. It is the folks who I have heard defend the Rose Bowl as the grand institution that it is that I apply that label to. Feinbaum wasn't the only one who went off on it. Dear goodness, am I okay? Pulse feels normal. This is going to be the second Stephen A. Smith clip this day that I have you listen to because I agree with it. I feel like I'll need a shower after the show, but it is what it is. Here's what Stephen A. Smith had to say about it.
I think that the players should expand to 8 teams, not 4. It shouldn't stay at 4.
Okay.
Because eventually, listen, we want the best teams in there, but we also want teams that aren't from the power conferences to get a shot. And when you look at it, especially I think Cincinnati, even though they lost in the playoffs this year, represented themselves pretty well. They didn't embarrass themselves. And I think that when you look at it from that perspective, they should extend it to 8 teams. But the thing that really confuses me, the FBS schools and Notre Dame forfeited in excess of $450 million.
Actually, yeah, 450.
$450 million. And then on top of it all, in order for them to change course and reverse their decision, through the duration of their contract, they would have to unanimously agree to do so, the 10 FBS commissioners in Notre Dame. I really need an explanation from those 10 FBS schools and Notre Dame. Why would you turn that down? It makes no sense to me. Why wouldn't you want 8 teams instead of 4? Why wouldn't you want the additional $450 million? I mean, it's just, I don't understand it. I mean, I got to read up more about it. We're just getting the news. So I'm not as edified on the situation as I'd like to be. Fair enough. But I'm just saying, you're forfeiting $450 million. And on top of it all, you're limiting it to 14.
Yeah, you feel like it limits the competition.
You got an 18 playoff. I mean, that would be just as exciting. It'll be additional week of football, not to mention the fact that you get more money.
And that is what I thought would make this go through, right? Stephen A. Smith's like, you got this, and this, and on top of all that, $450 million. You just said, no thanks. No thanks. You know, it's the mindset of understanding that it might be better for the game for your conference to have to lose this one little thing, but gain everything else that comes with this. More fan interest, more games on TV, more money, more publicity, right? And yeah, you might have to give up one little thing you don't like. You may have to give up. Again, I know I'm kind of harping on this to Lonzo's great chagrin, but you might have to give up a little prestige of the Rose Bowl. You might have to give up some bowl tie-ins that guaranteed that one of your team was going to be playing on prime time on New Year's Day. You might have to give that up. But the game itself is going to benefit from that. The game itself is going to be better because of that. The game itself is going to be better off in that situation. So why would you not turn the corner on this? It was right there. Just sign on the dotted line. We are all better off for this. Just pull the trigger. But nope. Everybody's got to look out for their little fraction of the game as opposed to growing the grand scheme of the thing overall. It's disappointing. Disappointing. All right, we come back. We'll talk about this Juwan Howard thing. Then we got Joe Giglio of BetQL joining us after that to give you some thoughts on the NBA and some college basketball futures. All that and more coming up on the Rob Brown Show. This is ESPN Upstate. Be right back.
So the dream was to build your very own law practice. Be your own boss, call all the shots. But have things like billing, HR, timekeeping, and all the other management stuff turn your dream into a nightmare? Take charge of your practice with Lexicon. We're the intersection of practice management software and legal support services for your firm. You'll get more billable and livable hours back. Lexicon marks the spot for all your practice management needs. Visit lexiconservices.com/intersection and get the whole story or schedule a demo.
This is sponsored by BioNTech and Pfizer. Your local pharmacy may be a convenient place to get your family's vaccines and boosters. While you're there, talk to your pharmacist about Comirnaty, COVID-19 vaccine Myrna.
Let's face it, credit cards are pretty much a necessity.
You tires for the car? Here's my card.
I order takeout, use my card. And most of us just accept the high interest rates credit cards charge as a necessary evil.
What are you going to do?
Get a low fixed rate credit card consolidation loan from Lightstream from $5,000 to $100,000 and pay off those credit card balances.
Oh, yeah?
Wheels on the bus go round and round.
Apply today at lightstream.com/radio and get an additional interest rate discount. That's lightstream.com/radio. Lightstream.com/radio.
Subject to credit approval rates range from 4.90% APR times and 99% APR increase. 5% overhead discount. Most rate requires execution. Terms and conditions and offers are subject to change without notice. Visit lightstream.com/radio for more information. The job search can be a frustrating journey filled with long, lonely hours before the computer and countless attempts to get notified. ZipRecruiter gets it. No one wants to feel alone in their jobs. That's why ZipRecruiter's AI does so much of the work for you. They save you time by sending you jobs you can apply for with confidence. They pick the profiles with you. When you stand out, job seekers feel the love. Sign up at ZipRecruiter.com. And once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com. Dell's President's Day event has arrived. We're honoring you. For the artists and gaming fans out there, it's time to get more into what you're passionate about. For a limited time, save up to $250 on select Alienware and XPS computers powered by Intel Core processor. But the deal doesn't stop there. Take advantage of our special pricing on monitors, docks, mice, and other accessories. These offers won't last. So start your upgrade today by visiting Dell.com/President's Day or by calling 800-BY.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Rob Brown Show continues. This is ESPN Upstate. Rob Alonzo with you. I want to go to this Juwan Howard story. Michigan, Wisconsin playing a little shooty hoops over the weekend. Wisconsin thoroughly dismantled Michigan. And inside of a buck left, Wisconsin holding on to a convincing lead, calls a timeout. And the Michigan folks were super not thrilled about it. Like super not thrilled. Wisconsin calls a timeout after the game is over. Juwan Howard, member of the Fab Five and current Michigan head coach, walked over to the handshake line. And Wisconsin head coach Greg Gard walked up to him and wanted to tell him why Wisconsin called a timeout when they were up as many points as they were. Juwan Howard said that the timeout was, quote, not necessary in that moment, especially being up a large lead. Gard, I'm not entirely sure. I believe he probably wanted to get a couple of reserve guys in there for the last handful of seconds of the game. Gard went over to talk to Howard and explain why he called the timeout. Fair or foul, we'll debate here in a minute. But as he did, Gard kind of grabbed Howard by the arm, right? Because Howard was just walking past him, which is understandable. He was mad that Gard called the timeout. He was upset about it, and he was just going to rock right past Greg Gard. Gard kind of grabbed him by the arm because he wanted to, I don't know if apologize or just explain it or what. But Juwan Howard took exception to that. The two of them started getting into it. And in clip number 3, you're going to hear the play-by-play guys try to explain that situation.
And we've got a dust-up right now. Juwan Howard and Greg Gard were going nose to nose, and now we got a problem. We got pushing and shoving. We got a lot of chirping. We got a wrestling match going on, and Jacoby Neath being pulled away by Carter Higginbottom. Adam Smith, graduate assistant for the Wisconsin Badgers, pushing off a couple of players.
Yeah, there were some punches thrown in there.
As it got nasty there in the end, and everybody being separated, you got to be really careful here. Tyler Wall getting guys away. You got to be careful here. Richard, big fella, getting out there. He's telling his guys, get off the floor.
It got UGLY around there. Players got into it. Players started throwing punches at each other. By the way, the Juwan Howard hit was not a punch, right? It's more of an open palm slap.
It was it's one of those when you're it's a wrestling thing. And when he said a wrestling where you reach your hand over and you put your entire palm on someone's face and you kind of brush them.
Yeah.
I mean, even from the replays, it doesn't look like it was a full on, it definitely wasn't a punch. But it is one of those, I'm going to get you and put your hand on their face and kind of shove their face type thing.
Yeah, it's almost more demeaning than a punch. Right?
Yeah. I'd rather be punched.
Yeah. It's almost more demeaning than a punch. I think the offense comes from the fact, because if you do that to a dude, what you're telling him is, I'm not afraid of you enough to feel like I need to shot you. I can just let you know I'm in control here.
If you remember, and some of us, it's a lot further away than others, back in high school when fights would start, it's usually, crowds gather around both guys, and it's usually when the punches fly is after that. That's the first thing that happens usually. There's either a shove or someone does the hand palm, whatever that's called, and then punches happen after.
Yeah. It is a message that I'm not afraid of you enough to feel like I need to punch you and put you down, right? Like, I know I am the big dog in this situation.
It's get out of my face.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. It's the physical form of get out of my face.
So after Howard confronted Gard in the handshake line, the teams and the staffs began to gather around Howard when Howard swiped at Wisconsin assistant Joe Krabenhoff, which started the larger scuffle. A number of players involved in the scrap have been suspended since then. Juwan Howard issued an apology saying, quote, I will learn from my mistake and this mistake will never happen again. Suspended 5 games for that indiscretion, which is conveniently the exact amount of regular season games that the Wolverines have remaining in the season.
So instead of saying suspended for the rest of the season,
regular season,
they put 5
games on it, which is what they have left.
Which sounds lesser, but it's still the rest of the season. Would it have been more if there were more of the season left?
I don't know. I think the reason they consider it here is because Michigan's a bubble team, right? Michigan's got work left to do, and of those 5 remaining games, 3 of them are against ranked top 25 teams that are good. So they got 3 really tough games left, a couple of easy ones, and they need probably to win. They either need to win all 3 ranked games, or they need to win 2 of them and both of the unranked games that they have left, which is why I think the 5. Now, what's interesting here, Lonzo, is that Michigan and Wisconsin could very well get matched up in the opening round of the Big Ten Conference tournament. We could see these 2 teams go after it again.
And if you are the committee that puts it together, you absolutely want that to happen.
It's one of those things because where you're going, the Big Ten is going to say it's inappropriate, it's unacceptable, and also a round 1 matchup is going to get a hell of a lot of eyeballs on it.
Yeah. It's just the way things played out. We didn't have a choice. We tried to, but we can't look at these things when we put matchups together, and that's just how it turned out. So they're going to have to play each other.
Sure. Texas says you're forgetting Michigan was down 15 and he put a full court press on. It was Juwan Howard's fault. I didn't watch the game. I've been seeing the fallout like everybody else. I was busy this weekend. I took my sports in brief modicums. I didn't get to watch the game to watch what led up to it. Either way, it doesn't matter, right? You can't do this. You can't do this. So then, because there wasn't enough drama in that, Then there were some folks that started coming out and going, you know what, if this is the kind of stuff that's going to happen, we should scrap the post-game handshake line. We should scrap the post-game handshake line, which a lot of sports have done, right? After the Rona. In fact, college basketball, I've been watching ACC ball a lot. A lot of the ACC games, they've scrapped the post-game handshake line. They just send the teams back to the locker room, minimize contact. I think it's kind of silly at that point, even to somebody who is, go get your shots in your boosters. Still think not slapping hands after the game is kind of silly after you played 40 of basketball.
They did this in high school for us after wrestling matches because when you were done with the wrestling match, you went over and you shook hands with the opposing coach. They got rid of it because there were fights and there were dust ups and things like that. So Juwan doing this is so high school.
It's so high school. And Tom Izzo in clip number 2, Tom Izzo popped off. And by the way, Brian, I see you on the line. Hang there. I'm coming to you right after this. But Izzo was asked about those that want to scrap the post-game handshake line. And Tom Izzo lost his freaking mind, and I loved it.
The social media world, which you love, and in the national broadcasting talk shows, there are suggestions, silly as they may be, that we should do away with the handshake line now.
Oh, my God.
Have you heard that?
Oh, my God, I have. And I do got to comment on that since that's not insulting to anybody. That, to me, would be the biggest farce, joke, ridiculous nature of anything I've ever heard of. We've already taught these poor 18-year-olds that when you're told to go to class and you don't like it, you can leave. We've already told these kids if you're not happy, you can do something else. We've already told these kids that it's hard to hold them accountable. And now we're going to tell them to not man up and walk down a line on someone who's kicked your butt and have enough class to shake their hand is utterly ridiculous. So if the president said it, I think he's full of it. If the best coach in America said it, I think that gets me way more than this incident because we're already teaching these kids nothing. And then we're going to do something like that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I didn't like it last year when some people waved, I didn't care if I got COVID. I'm going to go down there and shake the guy's hand. And I'm going to try to shake the player's hand. And I don't know what they do in every sport, but somebody says, well, they don't do that in football. Hell, kid me, there's changing jerseys. I mean, I'm a little bit in the Magic Johnson thing when he said that Pat Riley would say, don't be talking to anybody from the Celtics before the game. But when the series was over, that's when the respect factor came. So the people that are saying that are the same people that don't want to teach players accountability, respect, or anything else.
Izzo went full boomer on America right there. Nobody's telling kids any of those things that he said, but all right. I just love that my guy had a visceral, at one point in that rant, which I had to cut a chunk of it out because Izzo went on for a minute. But at one point, Izzo decided that just in case you didn't know what the handshake line looked like, he mined out a handshake line to talk about how great the handshake line is, right? He walked over and walked in front of the journalist, air shaking hands with an imaginary opponent to show how important it was to do the handshake line. Izzo popped and I loved it. I loved it. Now, this is one of those times where Rob's going to buy into the idealism that so many of you guys argue from when we talk about stuff like this, right? It's on guys like Juwan Howard to show that sportsmanship is important, that respect is important. Do you think, if you think it's important to use sports, and I've said for years, athletes aren't role models, right? If you're a parent, don't let LeBron James parent your kid, right? Don't let Steph Curry parent your kid. Don't let Aaron Rodgers parent your kid. You parent your kid. And if one of these athletes does something dumb, then you go, don't act like that guy. I know you like him. I know you like him because he plays football, but don't act like that guy. You parent your kid. But the handshake line's kind of an institution in basketball, right? It's kind of an institution in basketball. It has kind of gone by the wayside a little bit post the Rona, but it's an institution in basketball. And Izzo having that visceral of a reaction to a few guys who went, if we're going to start throwing punches, if we're going to start having one coach open palm strike another coach, maybe we chill out with it for just a little while till we get past that. I love how hard Izzo went in the paint to defend the handshake line. Great stuff.
As someone who absolutely hates the handshake line for other reasons, just because I don't like having to touch that many people. I don't want to see it go away because it goes both ways. And I know how this is going to sound, but there's nothing like looking in the eyes of an opponent that you just beat and shaking their hand.
Yeah, there's nothing like looking into the opponent of an opponent who just kicked your ass and having to own it.
It goes both ways, without a doubt.
Yeah, we've all been on both sides of
and
the
then
line.
you get those kids that just smack your hand as you go through and stuff, and try to do it a little extra hard because they're trying to start something. It is part of sportsmanship.
2002 Florida High School Athletic Association state finals. Me and the rest of the Choctawhatchee Indians went up against the Haines City High School Hornets, who had like 4 D1 recruits on that squad. They killed us, right? Now, the night before, we won the semifinal against Lakeland, I think. And we did the handshake line. And, of course, we were all like, can we get this over with so we can go celebrate at half court? We're going to the state finals. And then we got our rear ends handed to us in the state finals. And I remember what it felt like to walk down that handshake line up against a bunch of dudes who just took our gold medal from us. And there was nothing we could do about it, right? Because that was it. That was the last game. There was no, we'll get y'all next time. That was it for us. It was the most painful high school memory I have. But it's one of those things that teaches you that life lesson. It's one of those things that teaches you that life lesson about how to accept an L with humility and grace, even when the other guy's dancing in your face about it. Sometimes you just got to recognize, I took an L.
And also,
that's life.
This feeling that I have right now, I don't like this.
Yeah.
I don't want to have this feeling again. So maybe there's a little bit something extra that I can put into it next time we play to make sure this doesn't happen.
And I'll have you know, Lonzo, that our team came back the next year with that memory from what happened. And you know what we did the next year? We went like 8-22. We sucked. It was terrible. It was terrible.
So you didn't go Ohio State on Clemson type of thing?
No, we just
no,
got
you
smoked.
didn't do that. Okay.
We just got smoked. Let me get Brian in here real quick before we take a break. We got Joe Giglio from BetQL up next. Let me get Brian in here now. Brian, what's up, big dog? Welcome to the show.
Hey, guys, did you see the press conference with Howard?
I saw clips of it, yeah.
Okay, all right. You need to watch the whole thing. They asked him, they said, what happened? He said, when I came through the line, I told him I want to remember that timeout.
Yeah.
And that's when the Wisconsin coach said, let me explain to you why I did it, because you was pressing, with 15 points, spread with less than a minute, and I got my subs in there. And when they asked him about that, he said, we weren't pressing. Well, if you watch it, they're double teaming pressing. Okay. And then that's what started the whole skirmish, because the coach was upset they were pressing their backups and they had their starters in there. Michigan still had their starters in. So that's what started the whole skirmish. He was trying to explain to him why he was doing it, because of what Howard said. Howard said he's going to remember that timeout. And but they only have 4 seconds to get it across the timeline at that time. So he called a timeout to reset it to 10 seconds. So I get it. I get why he called a timeout.
Oh, yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, again, for the record, Juwan Howard's the one in the wrong here.
Yeah, but listen, open hand, closed hand, thumping him on the nose, whatever. He had no right to touch somebody.
Agreed. Agreed.
They don't. I mean, you can downplay it all you want. Well, he didn't hit him with his fist. He just slapped. Well, you put your hands on me.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. And Brian, I appreciate the phone call.
It don't matter how you downplay it.
I agree. I agree entirely. Listen, Juwan Howard's in the wrong here. I'm not, for the record, just so we're clear in case it was confusing, I am not defending Juwan Howard.
By the way, Rob, one of the most passive people I know, you do that to him, he's probably going to be ready to go.
Yeah, you put your hand open on my cheek and turn my head. I've taught my way out of every fight I've ever been close to. Don't do that. Don't do that. Take a break. Joe Giglio at BetQL when we come back on the Rob Brown Show, ESPN Upstate.
Yeah, I'm probably biting fingers.
He didn't throw a punch, but I might. Do you have the show prep or you need the number for Joe?
I got it.
Okay. So Aaron Rodgers has been doing all his stuff and going on McAfee Show and all that. And Bakhtiari just posted the meme from GTA 5 where the character goes, "Oh, blank, here we go again."
Revelation on Twitter today from receiver Jarvis Landry said he's told the Browns he'd like to stay, but he's ready to move on to help another team win a championship if staying with Cleveland isn't in the cards. Landry, coming off an injury-plagued 2021 season, is not a free agent, but has no guaranteed money after this current contract. Michigan State and Iowa tip off tonight's college basketball doubleheader at 7 Eastern on ESPN TV, followed by number 5 Kansas hosting Kansas State at 9 Eastern.
Angels Market Studio. This is ESPN Upstate. 97.7 FM Greenville, 97.1 FM Spartanburg. ESPN Upstate.
An Odyssey station.
At Fisher Investments, our clients know we have their backs. How do your clients know that? Because Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, the highest standard for a financial advisor. It means we're there for our clients and always put their
I'm awaiting a response from the bus driver, and I haven't received one yet.
The bus, the bus driver, the bus of the wheels that go around.
Yes.
We know how important that responsibility is. So we take the time to really get to know them. Get to know them how? We make sure we understand their unique goals, finances, health, family, and lifestyle, so we can tailor their portfolios to their specific needs. Our goal is to help them achieve a comfortable retirement. Sounds like a big responsibility. You must make big commissions then, right? No, we don't sell commission-based products. We have one single transparent fee that's structured so we do better when our clients do better. Visit Fisher Investments.
The restraint it took for me to not hit reply all is very, I'm also attempting to take sole blame from everybody else and say it was me. Well, there's every chance that it was me or one other person. And the one other person is not in my department anymore.
And with the Bank of America customized cash rewards credit card, you can choose to earn 3% cash back on online shopping, which could increase up to 5.25% as a preferred rewards method. Rewards which you can put toward an extra treat that everyone will enjoy, like an old-fashioned popcorn machine. Visit bankofamerica.com/motorworld and apply now. Copyright 2021 Bank of America Corporation.
My leg was painful, red, and swollen just due to the crossword puzzle.
Hi, speak to Joe, please. Hey, this is Lonzo, ESPN Upstate. I'm doing good. How are you? Good. All right, got a minute. Hang on.
I don't know, Steven. So this weekend's an interesting weekend for me because Saturday is the annual celebration of another revolution around the sun, and then also I have to move. So my plans on Sunday are going to be dictated by how much I get done moving either Friday and or Saturday. If I am free by then, I will either be watching that game or I will be going up to Clemson to take a picture with the Braves World Series championship trophy. I do not know yet. But if I do get out to watch that game, I will let the people know. I will give the people what they want.
That's all the people need is more of Rob Brown.
Hashtag build the brand, baby. The Rob Brown Show is back on your radio. This is ESPN Upstate. On Tuesdays, we spend a little time talking with the host of BetQL Daily, which is one of the many tremendous shows that you can find on the BetQL network. You can also find those podcasts on the Odyssey app. Just download the Odyssey app and search BetQL. You'll find BetQL Daily, a show hosted by our weekly guest, Mr. Joe Giglio, joins us here on the Rob Brown Show. Joe, welcome back, big fella. How we doing, man?
Good, Rob. How you doing?
I am living the dream, buddy. I am living the dream. Did real well with my Super Bowl bets, which is the best you can ask for. And now, Joe, we start turning our eyes towards basketball, the NBA and college basketball. I'll ask you, because as a basketball guy, I go back and forth. Do you have a preference betting college or professional basketball when we get closer to March?
Well, in March, it's certainly going to be the NCAA. The one thing about the NBA that makes it hard is, I mean, obviously these teams are their eyes on the prize of the playoffs, right? So I do think down the stretch of a season, unless you're talking about a player prop or you're talking about a player that might have some sort of incentive to get to a certain threshold for a contract, you could have those nights where you're just not sure if an NBA team is going to show up. You don't get that as much at college. I think you get a truer game in college basketball down the stretch, especially in conference play, because it means something there. In the NBA, it's hit or miss each night, which kind of team's going to show up and if a bad team's going to kind of rest some players or not. So I do think that the truer game and the one that's easier to kind of gauge is college basketball this part of the season.
Joe Giglio, host of BetQL Daily, joins us every week here on the Rob Brown Show and ESPN Upstate as we talk a little bit of basketball. So let's start then, Joe, with the NBA, and then we'll flip to college basketball with March just around the corner. We're coming off the trade deadline. Saw some names move. Saw some names like Russell Westbrook we thought might move, did not. And now there seems to be, for instance, trouble brewing in Los Angeles, as the rumors here are that LeBron and his crew wanted Westbrook for John Wall. When we are coming off of the trade deadline, we've had the All-Star break now in our back pocket. Teams are kind of trying to find their new identity. What kind of things stand out for you as far as possible plays, specifically with teams that maybe added a piece but aren't big highlights? CJ McCollum going to New Orleans, etc. Is there anything that jumps out for you after trade deadline that catches your attention?
Yeah, I mean, a couple things are interesting because the league does shake up, and then obviously the big players moved here. The futures market, you could jump in there. There's still win totals that they repost post All-Star break, and I think there's some value there to jump out the teams over under. And I just think as the futures market goes with players, a guy like Joel Embiid, he's the leader in the clubhouse. He's the favorite to win the MVP. I do think as a whole, the trade for James Harden obviously helps Joel Embiid. It helps the Sixers. But as far as his MVP market or to lead the NBA in scoring, I think both of those there's value on him not doing those things now that he's playing with James Harden. I mean, he hasn't played with a number two ever this good, certainly not this season, anyone that could rack up points like James Harden. So I think it could knock down the chances for Embiid to lead the league in scoring. And I also think it could knock down his chances to win the MVP as they, on the fly, try to assimilate another star player. There could be some growing pains there. And it could take away from his overall numbers. So I think the chances for the Sixers to win a title, for Embiid to hold a trophy in June, they've obviously grown. But if you're looking at the futures market, there's an MVP who leads the NBA in scoring. I would think Joel Embiid probably came down a little bit in the reality of the Sixers now.
Joe Giglio from BetQL joining us here on the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate. I looked at the 76ers, and obviously getting Ben Simmons off the book, not what they wanted, but what they ultimately ended up having to do. Does that kind of shake up the predicted order of the East? Was there any value in jumping on the 76ers early to maybe finish a little better than they might have if Simmons was still on the roster and Harden was not?
Yeah, and I think the real value was probably right before the trade, and there's still some of it now. And we're going to see it probably change here over the next couple of weeks when we see Harden get on the court. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely value, especially if you kind of play out the way the NBA usually works, which is talent wins, right? It's not depth. It's not the ability to have, be assimilated on the same team for a couple of years. It's usually talent. Now, do I think the Sixers are a lock to win the Eastern Conference? I don't, but I also would be surprised if they're not in the Eastern Conference Finals. So if you feel like, they're going to be there fighting for it in the end, there's definitely some value. You can find them as about the fifth or sixth best odds to win the title. I think they're a Final Four team in the NBA, and so I think there's just some inherent value there with them.
What about the inverse? What about the Nets? I mean, the Nets opened the year with the big three, and the expectation that they would be in the NBA Finals this year, according to Vegas. The Big Three ended up, if I recall correctly, playing a grand total of 16 games together due to injuries, due to vaccination status, etc. I don't know that I want to bet against Brooklyn, but of course we don't know what Ben Simmons is going to look like when he finally gets out on the floor. But with the volatility of that team, with the core of that team falling apart the way that it did, is there any interest there that maybe Ben Simmons shows up and provides the effort and the ability that James Harden did not?
Certainly interest, certainly intrigue, but the idea of taking them at 6-1 just feels crazy. I mean, there's just too much uncertainty with that basketball team to feel good about them winning a title. I mean, let's be real. Kevin Durant has never been fully healthy. It's either been minutes restrictions or re-injuring himself last year or the calf again this year. Ever since, we're dating back now to when he blew his Achilles out with his last year with the Warriors. That's a concern. Like, how much can Durant play and play great when he comes back? Kyrie Irving is still a part-time player, and everyone keeps telling me they're probably going to change the mandate in New York City. Maybe they will, but maybe they won't. And right now he's a part-time player that can't play home games. And then you have Ben Simmons, who is still ramping up to play. He hasn't played a game since last June, and we have no idea if he's going to assimilate to his role with these two players and how much they can actually play together before the playoffs. 6-1 just feels crazy. I understand why it's around that mark and why the books are hesitant to put it at double digits, because people will probably just jump on it, and then there's a lot of liability there. But you've really got to take a leap of faith to just imagine they're going to put it all together and win a title at 6-1.
So we've talked about a couple of teams that a lot of folks like as favorites, Joe Giglio. Let's talk at maybe some teams that are floating mid-round. I mean, maybe there's even a team that's out there eligible for the play-in tournament that you think might have some surprise value. Is there anywhere somewhere a team maybe middle of the pack that stands out as, hey, maybe this team's just kind of sandbagging it a little bit for now, dealing with some injuries, whatever, that you think folks could get a jump on now that might give some good value for a late run when we get to the playoffs?
Yeah, there's two that stand out. I mean, Denver, if they can get Jamal Murray back, if they can get themselves whole around Jokic, they are dangerous. We've seen them play well in the playoffs years past. And the other one, that they're playing well. I mean, their record says they're playing well, but the odds don't reflect it because the top of the West is so good. The Memphis Grizzlies are really interesting. They're probably a year away, Rob, from being a team that can win a title. But think about the Western Conference right now. Draymond Green is still out trying to get back to the Warriors. Klay Thompson is not shown to be the guy that he used to be. Maybe that will come with time, but he's not there yet. So I think the Warriors are a little bit in this weird spot where we think they're a title contender. Their record says they are, but I'm not sure how it's going to look come the playoffs yet. And then you have Phoenix. They're clearly, in my mind, the favorite. I think they're going to win the title. But now Chris Paul is out, probably for the rest of the regular season. So does he have rust? Does he have a setback? I mean, there's this weird thing where the top is so good in the West, but both the top teams have a little bit of a question mark. And then you have the Grizzlies and the third seed right now. If they get hot and if they could pick on one of those teams who are injured in the second round, it wouldn't surprise me if the Grizzlies are in the Western Conference Final.
Love to hear it. Love to hear it. Joe Giglio joins us every Tuesday to talk props, odds, futures with us here on the Rob Brown Show and ESPN Upstate. We'll take a look at some college lines next week. Joe Giglio, great to talk to you, my friend. We will do it again in 7 days, pal.
You got it, Rob.
Looking forward to it. That is Joe Giglio from BetQL. Find them on the Odyssey Podcasting Network. Grab the Odyssey app, search BetQL. You can even search Joe Giglio. We'll pop right up there for you.
let's go back to the show for a few seconds.
So remember how I've been telling you that I think that there is a problem in the front office with the Panthers, and that ultimately is the reason this franchise can't seem to get out of its own way? I was thinking about this thing with Deshaun Watson, right? Because I was a little taken aback that when the news broke that Deshaun said no to the Panthers last year, so many people were surprised by it. I think I know why he did. And I'll tell you what that is when we come right back on the Rob Brown Show. 1 hour left. This is ESPN Upstate.
Download the Score app today. Lightning fast sports alerts so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. With your ESPN Upstate Sports Center update, I'm Matt Paul.
Have you heard Offsides with Mark Ryan?
Minority head coaches have been, in fact, more successful than non-minority head coaches.
Message from your smart speaker.
I know you're out there, touching things again, but who was there for you when you didn't want to touch anything? When all you had to do was ask, and you got all the information you wanted from a trusted source.
Still the best way to stay in touch with Upstate sports happenings.
Go ahead, touch your nasty phone. See if I care.
On air, on your smart speaker, or any smart device.
And don't you think any of that is not ESP nonsense?
This is ESPN Upstate.
And check this out.
An official Rob Brown lockdown.
Represents Real Green.
Yeah. Unfiltered sports talk invented locally for the Carolinas. This is the Rob Brown Show. Yeah. Only on ESPN.
The third, the best, the final hour of the Rob Brown Show goes now. This is ESPN Upstate. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am Rob. He is Lonzo. You are you. 844-GSP-ESPN. Text us on the Preferred Home Services text line at 71307. Start your text with ESPN. We'll read them on the air. I have two things I need to get off here in this segment. The first is I've been impressed the last couple of weeks with Dan Orlovsky. Yes, that Dan Orlovsky, quarterback analyzer for ESPN, because Orlovsky has had some good takes. We were both riding together on Matt Stafford. deserving more credit than he got going into this season for the Los Angeles Rams. There was some talks about Deshaun Watson a couple of weeks ago that Dan Orlovsky and I were on the same boat. And, I've always said, I think it's important to give recognition when and where recognition is due to guys specifically that I don't agree with. I did it earlier with Stephen A. Smith. I do it again here. And then Dan Orlovsky had to ruin everything, Lonzo. Dan and I we were on a kick together. We've been doing so well in our non-existent sports talker relationship.
I think Dan said, you know what? I've been agreeing with Rob Brown a little too much. I got to fix that.
Yeah, I got to be wrong about something to kind of balance out the scales. When Dan Orlovsky said a couple of hours ago, Lonzo, ruining the hot streak that he of the out-of-bounds runner has been on, when Orlovsky said, Lonzo, and I quote, and the most wrong thing anybody has said on Twitter in quite some time, crispy bacon is bacon in its best form. Wrong. Hashtag Team Floppy Bacon forever.
What? So you like flaccid bacon over crispy bacon?
Try to make it as weird
if
as you
if
want.
you like your bacon flaccid, I don't understand.
Does it make you feel better?
I thought how far apart we truly are. Crispy bacon is one of the most amazing foods of all time.
Crispy bacon has its place.
Not crispy to the point of nearly being burnt. Not crispy to the point where it might as well be a potato chip, but not floppy and flaccid.
Crispy bacon has its place. Correct? Has its place. Crispy bacon turned into bacon bits on a salad. Perfect. Crispy bacon placed in on a cheeseburger because you know it's going to get a little soggy after you place it on top of the cheese with the condiments. Fantastic place for crispy bacon. But if you are just making a plate of bacon, which I do, there have been nights, Lonzo, where yours truly has gone, I'm hungry, but I don't want to really work. I'm just going to cook up an entire pound of bacon and that's dinner.
Cooking up bacon is work because the popping grease can hurt.
Absolutely. But if you're just making a plate full of bacon, floppy bacon is the way to go. It's absolutely the way to go. And at the risk of understanding that my mother and potentially young nephew are watching, you may make all the flaccid bacon jokes you like, Lonzo. That just means you prefer erect bacon. You just prefer stiff bacon.
No, I prefer bacon as it was intended to be made. Fully cooked.
First off, there's no intended to be made. Bacon was never made with intention. We just discovered that bacon is proof that the universe wants us to be happy.
If your bacon is floppy and flaccid, either you don't know how to cook it or it's a poor grade of bacon.
No, I mean, you did it exactly right.
It means you were at the supermarket going, okay, yeah, prices are pretty high. I'll just go with this cheap brand. I've never heard of it before. Then you get it home and there's no way to make it crispy.
You're wrong, man. You're wrong. Texture says Liberob has floppy meat. Shocker. Golly.
This is one of those conversations I'm glad we never had in the office. I'm glad this is taking place on the air.
So that you can display to the world how wrong you are about bacon. I respect that. Respect that you just own it like that.
I would say if you put a poll, you would.
By myself so far. I am by myself so far. There's like Orlovsky put this up. No, I lied. There is one. Michael Stathakis, the restaurateur, is Team Floppy Bacon as well. And if I'm gonna trust Stacks on anything, it is the proper way to cook something. And he's Team Floppy Bacon.
I'm just thinking maybe you're not reading whatever he's saying correct.
I am reading Orlovsky's tweet and the response to it so far. Marty Smith of ESPN, a guy that I really like, he is Team Floppy Bacon. He said if it's crispy, you might as well just call it charred. Yeah, and I'm looking through the responses, and I'd say it's about 50-50. I'd say it's about 50-50
Yeah,
floppy versus crisp.
Stathakis, I'm looking at his stuff. He's just seeing a chance to do what he does. So we really don't know what his actual.
No. Stathakis is a troll and a really good one, and I give him credit for it because he's earned it. But when it comes to food, Stathakis does not joke. He hits you with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the floppy truth. So here's what
I am sure. Restaurant and said I would like my bacon crispy, he would be able to do that without a problem.
Right, I'm sure that he would.
And
He
I
would be happy
don't,
about it, but he would.
I don't think he would look down on me for asking for crispy bacon.
Texter says floppy bacon is sad and you should feel bad.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Texter says burnt bacon all day, Rob. Yeah, the fact that you refer to it as burnt, I think, ends the conversation.
Well, maybe he was just talking, or she, we're talking about their preference. It's a crispy bacon does not necessarily be burnt bacon. I stated that earlier.
Team floppy bacon.
I have spoken.
All right, here's the second thing I wanted to get, and this is actually sports. Oh, here's Texter. Former GM and kitchen manager here. No, crispy bacon is God's proof he loves us. Limp bacon is a sin. Another texter says, no need to have grease splatter. Burn your parchment paper on a baking sheet in the oven. Perfect, flat, no mess, and crispy. Okay. Number one, I get it, right? I get it. I know some people. The lady friend likes her bacon. She likes her bacon on the parchment paper in the oven, and that's fine. That's fine if you prefer it that way. I prefer the old-fashioned way. Put it in a frying pan. Let it fry in its own greasy goodness. That's where the glory of bacon shall forever be sung. The psst, when you're cooking bacon is effectively angels singing the praises of the best food.
I agree with the sound of the bacon, but if I try the bacon and it's floppy or flaccid, I think one of two things, as I said earlier, either it's cheap bacon or the person cooking it was in a hurry and didn't cook it all the way.
No. Texas says, I'll take crunchy meat over soft meat in my, I'm not ending the rest of that, but thank you for where you went.
Can't
there.
believe you got as far as you did in that one.
I knew where it was going. I was just waiting for the left-hand turn, and I found it. Another text says bacon's got to be chewy for me. Yeah, I agree. I want a little chew to my bacon. I don't need to break it. I don't need bacon to shatter, right? I don't need my food to shatter in my mouth and start ripping my gums open.
So
Give me floppy bacon.
you prefer taking some floppy flaccid bacon so you can chew on it for about 10 minutes.
Maybe we literally call it chewing the fat. That's a phrase of things that people do in the South. It's where it comes from. All right, second thing I wanted to get to here on the show. And by the way, feel free to send us a text right now. I am tallying votes. You may text 71307, the Preferred Home Services text line, and all you need to text is ESPN floppy or ESPN burnt. Those are the two options.
No. Is this a CNN poll? What are you doing here?
Hey, it is what it is. Skewing it as it goes. All right, here's the other thing I wanted to get to because we got Lonzo's favorite segment of the week, Faces and Heels, coming up in the next segment.
No, I think we should continue to talk about bacon.
You know we're coming back to the bacon discussion. We can't leave something like this on the proverbial table, right? So I've told you guys a number of times that I think that I think that the problem with the Carolina Panthers is the decision-making out of the front office, yeah? I think it's the decision-making out of the front office. I think the decision-making by those wearing the suits has doomed the Panthers as much as anything else. Earlier in the weekend, Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk broke the story that the Carolina Panthers made a play for Deshaun Watson last year while he was seeing his legal troubles get started. They tried to make a play to bring him up to Charlotte to take over the quarterbacking role from Sam Darnold / Cam Newton / PJ Walker. And this was pre-Cam Newton, right? And Deshaun, who has a no-trade clause, said no. Well, that news apparently set off a bunch of Panthers fans who were surprised, taken aback. I'm not really sure what word suits best here, but we're a little bit surprised by the fact that Deshaun told the Panthers, thanks, but no thanks. And I've heard a lot of he played his ball at Clemson. If there's a stadium that is going to buy the number 4 jersey in mass, it's going to be Carolina. Why wouldn't he want to come home? Yada, yada, yada. And I get all that, right? Now, two things at play here. Number one, as I've said many times when we've talked about college football fandom and passion in the past, I think we all, as college football fans, kind of do this thing where we think that our love and passion and dedication to our school is going to be matched by everybody else, right? You think every kid that shows up on a recruiting trip and throws on the helmet is immediately going to have the same love and passion that you have your whole life for that particular school. And that's not true. It's just not how it works. Some people, it's just a school. It's just where they go to play football. I'm not saying that's the case with Deshaun from all intentions and all context clues. I think Deshaun has an appreciation for Clemson, but that is not Carolina. That's a different franchise. It's a different program. It's a different team. It's a different place, right? But the second thing, and this is a question I want to pose to you and to the listeners, Lonzo. And my question is this. Do you think that Deshaun Watson maybe watched the way that the era of Cam Newton finished up in Charlotte, right? And there's a lot of people, Panthers fans included, who believe that Cam Newton kind of got shafted by the Panthers, right? Kind of got screwed over towards the end of his career by Carolina. Now, if you're Deshaun Watson and you look at the fact that Cam Newton came in, took the Panthers to a Super Bowl, took the Panthers to newish heights during his time, and when his time with Carolina, when his performance with Carolina started to go downhill a little bit, a lot of people, I'm sure Deshaun to some degree included, believe that Cam Newton kind of got screwed by the Panthers to finish his time in the Queen City. Would you want to go fill that same role? Would you want to go do that too, right? Cam took the Panthers to the Super Bowl. And the way his tenure played out was ugly when it was all said and done in Charlotte. Would you want to do that? Would you want to follow in those footsteps? Would you want to go there and do that, knowing that even if you take the Panthers to the Super Bowl, as soon as they feel like you can get them no further, they're like, later, peace, appreciate it. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you, right? Is there a chance, and I think that there not only probably is, but I think this is probably how it worked out, that Deshaun went back or grew up to some degree, watching the drama play out around the end of Cam's time as the Carolina quarterback and went, yeah, knowing what I've got ahead of me, right? Knowing the legal problems with the civil suits, knowing the potential that there's still a criminal charge coming down the pipe for me. If any one thing goes wrong there, I've already seen them throw a quarterback who took them to the Super Bowl under the bus. I'm not playing that game. I have no interest in it. I wonder, though, if some past questionable decision-making out of the Carolina Panthers organization maybe cost them bringing Deshaun into the fold, because Deshaun went, no, I'm not trying to do what Cam had happen to him. I'm not trying to live that life, and decided he'd go elsewhere, or just ride it out in Houston until his time came up and he got to go somewhere he wanted to go instead of somewhere he could have gone. I got to wonder if there's not a little bit of that decision-making that went into that, Lonzo.
I don't know. I don't know. I think, to me, he wanted to go to one place and one place only, and I believe it was Miami. We had a list earlier in the year of who he said he wanted to go play for, or supposedly, and Carolina was never on that list. When you make the list initially, maybe you go back and look at all that stuff. So probably that could be in there, but I think he just wants to go play at one place.
Maybe. But I got to think Deshaun, knowing at the time that Deshaun was about ready to come in the league, was about the time that Cam Newton's career was hitting the skids in Charlotte. This is the kind of thing that makes me wonder. You'd be in a much better spot if, when this drama with Deshaun went down, when Deshaun needed a place to go, that kind of looked and went, hey, look, we know you got legal problems. We know you got issues. We know you're probably not done with this yet, but we're going to roll the dice and give you a shot anyway, right?
How many years out of football? You've already been out, what, 1 year?
1 year.
Was it more than that, though?
No, it's just the one so far.
Starting.
I mean, he's had some injuries and bang-ups here, but last year was the first year he was like, no, I'm sitting.
So how many years out of football before he's just no longer a factor, period?
I mean, at least one more. maybe 2. I mean, the guy's got all-pro talent.
Well,
We know that.
the fact, and we've lamented this a dozen times, that nothing has happened with these lawsuits. We don't know if he'll ever play again. This thing just keeps pending and pending and pending, and nothing has come
I
of
agree,
it.
but that's kind of the point, right? Like, we don't know if he's ever going to play again. And the Panthers went, we'll bring you here anyway.
Yeah, it's so desperate.
We'll bring you here
really
anyway.
is.
And I agree, it looks desperate. And then you add on to the fact that they called Kirk Cousins. It absolutely looks desperate. But
Is there a worse quarterback they could have called?
then
If
Kirk Cousins,
If we find out that they called
like a
around
trade
for
for Mason Rudolph,
maybe,
you know?
possibly.
See if Dan Orlovsky and his terrible bacon takes want to come out of retirement. Maybe. No, it's a bad look. Look, calling Deshaun's number in the first place at the time he was going through all that, that was a bad look too. I'm not arguing that was not a bad look, but at least with Deshaun, you know what you're getting, right? You know you're getting a Pro Bowl talent.
No, you know what you got. You really don't know what you have anymore.
You know what you got as far as on the field performance, right? Now, maybe after a year off, but remember, this was 6-7 games into last season. He'd only missed 2 months of football at this point, technically speaking. It was a risk. It absolutely does look desperate. I'm not arguing that it doesn't. What I am saying is that you'd be if the Panthers were in a better place, I would not be asking the question, did he say no because of the way they botched the end of Cam Newton's career? Did he say no because he looked at the front office of this team and went, don't want to put up with that? Even the crap I'm going through, the suspension I'm probably facing, the criminal convictions I'm possibly facing, and if nothing else, 22 civil suits that are going to label me a thing for the rest of my career, and they want to give me a chance, and I still say no? There's a part of me that thinks, is it because he saw what's happened to Carolina in the past and went, I don't want to be a part of that boat show? Strong possibility, and that's the problem with the franchise. Let's take a break. We'll come back here in just a minute. Lonzo's favorite segment of the week, Faces and Heels, where we take a look at some socially ambiguous situations and try to figure out who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. That's next on the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate. All right.
Monday during the ACC teleconference, he was asked about the injury status of center PJ Hall. He did not have a whole lot to say, saying that the x-rays on the foot were negative. That is good, but they are continuing to do some medical testing. Clips of basketball back at it coming up tomorrow when they're going to match up against Wake Forest. South Carolina basketball also playing tomorrow when they are going to take on at Mississippi State. Other college basketball later on in the week. Furman on Wednesday will play Samford, while Wofford will match up against VMI, and Coastal Carolina tomorrow. They are set to take on Arkansas State. Download the Score app today. Lightning fast sports alerts so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. With your ESPN Upstate Sports Center update, I'm Matt Pauley.
ESPN Upstate is your home for Furman Paladins men's basketball. Every play, every game on ESPN Upstate. 97.7 FM Greenville, 97.1 FM Spartanburg. On your computer, smart speaker, and phone on the Odyssey app.
Let's face it, credit cards are pretty much a necessity.
New tires for the car? Now here's my card.
I order takeout, use my card. And most of us just accept the high interest rates credit cards charge as a necessary evil.
What are you going to do?
Get a low fixed rate credit card consolidation loan from Lightstream from $5,000 to $100,000 and pay off those credit cards.
Critical Role says goodbye to a founding member of the current adventuring party.
That's in character.
Not going to read the story. Finished it up, by the way.
Critical Role?
Yeah.
Vox Machina? What'd you think? Without knowing the backstory from the campaign, what do you think?
Yeah. I asked Cameron because he does know the backstory.
Yeah.
I said, how is it to watch it when you know what's going to happen? I mean, it's like watching a different version of a movie with the same script, basically, isn't it?
Yep. Kinda. There was some things that changed in like, so because there's stuff that's trademarked by D&D, they can't use it, so they had to kind of work around it.
As far as animated fantasy in this vein, I thought it was excellent. I love the animation. I'm never going to be a fan of the cursing,
right?
But I guess I'm different. But other than that, I thought the jokes were good. It wasn't entirely predictable.
Yep.
Like some things sometimes are, and me not knowing the characters means that I can watch it and not go, well, that's not what they did here.
Right.
So, which I prefer to do that.
Yeah, of course.
And I don't know if this led to this discussion or not, but we talked about me not watching Back to the Future 2 and Hannibal and stuff. But I know everything about them. I've seen clips. People have spoiled me to death. I don't need to see the movie.
Right.
I'm not going to see anything that I don't already know.
Right.
Rob Brown Show, what do you want to talk about? So you want to talk curling?
For the artists and gaming fans out there, it's time to get more into what you're passionate about. For a limited time, save up to $250 on select Alienware.
All right. What's your name?
Powered by Intel Core processor.
What's your name? You said Andrew. Andrew, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm like a second slow. So, all right, hang on. So we've got a caller on the line. So maybe we shouldn't do this segment, and we should go to the
segment. We'll see if we can fit him in at the end of it.
Yeah, but he wants to talk about curling. I know we're not talking about it, but you're going to talk about the wrap up of the Olympics, and of course,
we're never not talking.
Yeah, I know. So I think it's kind of important. I can move the intro and come back with the regular, and then we just don't do faces and heels.
We got it here. I believe in us. We can do them both.
I'm about the smooth transition, and I don't think this is going to be one.
Lonzo, I might very well lose the floppy v crispy bacon debate. Oh, no. We're at 50-50. Had a little surge of floppy bacon there.
I think some dead people are voting in this for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Faces and Heels, a segment where Lonzo and I take a look at some socially ambiguous situations and try to determine who's the good guy and who's the bad guy, who's the face, and who is the heel. I love this segment. Lonzo, every week, can't wait for this segment, and it's absolutely unbelievable how excited he gets over this.
Yeah, anticipation, I guess, is the way you would describe it.
All right. Here's a couple of them, ladies and gentlemen. Here's a couple of them. So we'll start with this one. 22-year-old man goes out with one of his drinking buddies, and his buddy has just got a new girlfriend. The girlfriend came out. They were all hanging out together. It was him and another buddy, and then the buddy and the new girlfriend. The guy was bragging about how great the new girlfriend is, but then he decided to start talking about their adult lives together. How incredible of a performer she was in certain aspects of their private life. And nothing crazy graphic, but just, past the line of casual, friendly adult conversation with the person there. He said I asked him once to please ease up on the conversation. He said, we're all adults here. So I told him to shut the blank up openly and in front of the girlfriend. He said they left together. He texted me later and said I had no right to tell him what he was and was not allowed to talk about at the bar. And since then, they have not hung out. So, Lonzo, face and heel, Buddy's talking about the private behind closed doors aspect of he and his girlfriend's relationship. But the girlfriend is there and seems cool with it. The guy doesn't say or says once, can you please stop? The guy keeps going and he tells him to shut the bleep up in front of the rest of their friends. Who's the face? Who's the heel?
Well, the buddy seems to be chivalrous, or at least doesn't like those things, doesn't feel comfortable those things being discussed in front of him, especially while the other person is sitting there. And I completely get that. What an uncomfortable situation that would be for a lot of people. There's some people like, oh yeah, man, give me all the details. I want to know. And that's that, by the way. I'm going to go. The information is the heel. I think some things should stay private, even if the other person is cool with it. It's still I'm talking about the partner.
Yeah.
Some things should stay private.
So is it too far in saying shut the blank up? Even if he and the girlfriend were both, and nobody else said that they had a problem with it. It was just the one guy.
Well, from our conversations, I am told that people just talk that way. So it's probably not out of the ordinary. No. For me, it would bother me.
Sure.
But as we've noted, I'm just weird and alone. Not really. But yeah, there are more people like me than you know. Yeah, we're just secluded and hanging in groups where we talk cordially.
Yeah. I've been in this situation before, right? I've been in this situation before. And if everybody at the table is an adult and everybody's cool, I mean, listen, I've heard those jokes and those conversations with people about their husbands and wives and whatnot. And for the most part, I don't really care. I will tell you, if I'm in a bar, like if we're in a bar, we're out in public and you're getting loud about it, I'll be like, hey man, chill. And if you've been asked to chill a couple of times and you're getting louder and louder about it, at some point, somebody's just got to tell you to shut up. Somebody's just got to tell you to stop it. I'm going to go if that was like, if he had said one time, hey man, cool it, and the guy didn't, and you went straight to shut the bleep up, I'd say at that point, you're probably the heel, right? Especially if the rest of the table is there and it's just kind of cool with the conversation, then, leave the conversation if you're not comfortable.
But
you're an adult too.
Since we're not there, we don't know.
And 4 of them are having an adult conversation and you by yourself are uncomfortable with it, to tell the other 4 shut the blank up because you're uncomfortable with it, just go away till they're done with that conversation and come back. You're an adult too. You're not obligated to be there, right? I'm gonna go he's the heel. If she was cool with it, he was cool with it. The other friends at the table were, in on the conversation, and you're uncomfortable with it, which I understand. I'm not saying he's wrong for being uncomfortable. I'm saying everybody else should stop doing this thing because it's making me not enjoy my time. Now you're selfish. You're the heel. Go away. All right. Here's one I think could have some heat to it, Lonzo. 28-year-old young lady has a 38-year-old sister who has 2 kids, aged 6 and 9, says that her sister and her husband do not believe in disciplining their children. Right? No discipline. They believe the important part is to lean down and have the conversation with the kid. Here's why this is wrong. Here's why this is unacceptable. But if you keep doing it, we're not going to discipline you. Says that the sister and her 2 kids were both at my house. The older one was unhappy about a situation and in the kitchen threw a glass and broke it. Said, I rushed to clean up the mess, instinctively expected my sister to go and tell her child off for what was done, that this is inappropriate and unacceptable, while I was cleaning the glass. Said that the sister did not do that. Said the sister said glasses are for drinking, not throwing, and then just left the kitchen. And that was the end of the conversation. She said, I went over, I disciplined the kid, didn't hit him, didn't spank him, but told them, go in the living room and don't come back in my kitchen until you can show respect for my stuff. The sister is now mad, saying that I overstepped my boundaries because she does not discipline her kids. I expected her to when she's in my house. Which one's the face? Which one's the heel? Sister for a parenting style of no discipline and allowing kids to be kids, or other sister subject to the story for disciplining the sister's children in front of their parents.
It's a trap.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in the
Do you
future,
just have that clip ready to go for this whole segment?
no, as soon as you started talking about it, I realized
Okay,
what
perfect.
you were doing.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind having some say in some of the things picked because they all seem to be directed at me to see what exactly I'm
I
going to
honestly,
say.
I did not pick this
just,
because it was directed at you.
yeah. Well, I am the only parent in the room. So I mean, so technically it could be considered directed at me. Obviously, you parent however you want to parent. Doesn't mean you're doing it right. You can do it wrong. You know, wrong parenting. And some people feel like they don't need to discipline. But if you're in a home, someone else's home, and your kid's being disrespectful and breaking things, if you don't want to discipline them, pick their booty up, put them in the car. That might
The kid's 9 years old.
right, which means he or she are to that point where you're probably not fixing it. They may not grow out of it. 9 is a little too old to be throwing stuff in a tantrum and have it explained away by your mom. It's just, she's the heel, but not for the reason, not because she's not disciplining her kids. She should. That's my opinion. But the fact that she let that go and didn't do anything to the kid after he broke something that didn't belong to him. I just, that's just ridiculous.
All right. Here's another one for you. Oh, by the way, I guess I got to answer. You don't want to discipline your kid? That's cool, man. That's fine. If you want to let them grow up to be a little hellion, that's on you. All right. Don't bring them to the adult bar where I'm trying to enjoy my drinks and let them run crazy when I'm trying to have a beer in the sunshine. All right. But that's another discussion.
And when they move up inside to break things that could, you know, like the law.
Oh, yeah.
Don't
hear a word of complaint when there's consequence coming. When they start breaking people's car windows and you got to come out of tens of thousands of dollars because they popped somebody's tires because they looked at them wrong, that's on you. But they in my house now, right? And if you are old enough to throw a glass, know what you're doing is wrong, I'm not going to hit you. I'm not going to, but I will tell my sister, get out, take your kids with you. You can come back when you don't have your kids with you. Because if you're going to act like that and you're going to let them act like that in my house, you are being disrespectful. The kid's being disrespectful, but you are being disrespectful by letting them do it to me and my property. Get out, come back without them, or don't come back. I got no problem with that. None at all. All right. Texture says, oh, yeah, that's cool. If he were 5, it's if you ask kids 9, right? This is not like a 3-year-old, right? All right. One, maybe 2 more. Guy says he's in a relationship with a young lady. They both have kids from previous relationships. Says my daughter is 7 years old. Her daughter is 8 years old. Says that the tradition has been for his 7-year-old daughter that every year on the birthday, they go out, they go to McDonald's because it's her favorite thing in the world. And in the city they're in, there is a petting zoo next to the McDonald's. And his 7-year-old daughter is obsessed with animals and loves the petting zoo. So every year on the birthday, he takes the kid to McDonald's and then the petting zoo. That's all she ever wants to do. Says, I explained this tradition to my new partner who has an 8-year-old daughter, but the 8-year-old daughter is afraid of animals. Horses, donkeys, monkeys. She's just afraid of animals as a whole. And the partner said, could we do something different? Could we go somewhere new? Could we start a new family tradition, right? Could we start a family tradition amongst the 4 of us to go hang out? The boyfriend or fiance, I'm not 100% sure what level they're at here, said, my daughter wants to go to McDonald's and my daughter wants to go to the petting zoo. The girl said, I understand that, but we're a family now, and we're supposed to do stuff together as a family. We can go somewhere and look at animals, but can we go somewhere that we're like not up close and personal to them? He said, nope, I'm going to the petting zoo. If you and the daughter want to come, great. If not, we will see you for dinner after it's all said and done. And took his daughter to the petting zoo. Facing he, Alonzo.
Do you hear that anticipation in his voice?
I know, it's exciting for me.
Yeah, it is. He's also, he may forget a lot of things, but he doesn't forget any of these segments. So he's looking for consistency from me. And it's also another trap. This is why I love this segment. This is a tough one. It is a tough one. It's a tradition. The other question is, like with the one we did previously, how old is the kid?
The petting zoo daughter is 7. The other daughter who's afraid of the animals is 8.
I don't see why they have to do everything together all the time. So it's a tradition. The daughter wants to go to McDonald's and the petting zoo. I guess, all right, I think there's an obvious heel here. It is the daughter that's afraid of animals. She's the heel. She's called. You got to take her to a zoo until she overcomes her fear.
Listen, the lady is the heel. All right, the lady's the heel. The dad's not the heel. He's doing what's best for his daughter. The daughter's not the heel. She's 7 and she wants to pet a goat.
I just hope that
It's
they go to the McDonald's, because that can lead to some other problems.
The lady's the heel, right? In a situation like that, because the reason is the 8 years old is all cracked out, right? Like, oh, I don't get to go. I mean, I want to spend my birthday with my new sister, which I understand, and that's adorable. But you go, listen, sweetheart, she wants to go pet the monkey, so we can either go to the zoo together.
We know about stepkids, okay?
Yeah.
This is an evil stepdaughter. She's trying to disrupt the flow because she doesn't want her mom. This guy. It's all.
Favorite thing is that at the end of the segment, you can always bank on Lonzo getting uber sarcastic to try to throw it down the toilet at the end. And I respect the hustle. Can we get Andrew real quick in here before we take a break? Andrew called in to talk a little curling. Thanks for hanging on, Andrew. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Hey, it's good to talk to you. Long time listener. Hey, your consistency on the Panthers is there, but to use that for it again, I was down at near Destin Beach camping this weekend. I wish I knew you were playing. I might have been able to go, man.
Well, dadgum, man. I didn't post it on Twitter, so that's my bad. That's my bad.
Yeah,
Next time you're down that way, you hit me up and I'll put a show together.
Yeah, well, I hadn't been back there in 30 years. It has changed. But, hey, listen, what I wanted to call you about is last week you did a cover story that I heard on the curling, that we were up for the bronze. I don't even know what happened because I've been watching the Olympics. But I was like, why is he talking about curling, man? You haven't covered the Olympics hardly at all. And then, boom, it hit me, man. You're like, I remember you wanted to start a amateur curling league. Or you remember that?
I do. Many moons ago.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, my God, he's so consistent. He won't cover the whole Olympics, but he'll cover the sports you like. And you're a curler.
I mean, I don't apologize or feel ashamed.
No, I don't either. If you start one here, I'll join it too.
Done.
I'm because I'm a darts guy, pool guy, bowling guy. I'm the Lonzo would kick my butt. But yeah, I'm telling you, that is hilarious. You covered that, and I remember the consistency. So I wanted to tell you that's a good thing. And Lonzo had mentioned that just in the previous piece. You're consistent, which is awesome.
I do my best. Andrew, thanks for the call, buddy. Andrew listened to me back down on the Panhandle when I used to talk about my Facebook memory popped up the other day about a segment I did on curling in 2010. It's not a joke. I love the sport. And by the way, we don't have to start a curling club here. There's already one, and they're friends of ours, friends of the show, the Palmetto Curling Club. Look them up on Facebook.
Shout out to Michelle.
That's right. The Palmetto Curling Club. I'll give them some free love because I love them. In fact, I think they got an open house coming up today. I think tonight or next Tuesday. Look them up on Facebook. They'll hook you up. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show, ESPN Upstate. Crispy Bacon is in the lead 55 to 45%. It's a heated race.
I am curious about the show that comes on after us. Are they crispy or I know we're not supposed to do that anymore, but yeah.
Crispy or floppy bacon? No, I'm alone.
Rob just took a poll of the following show, and I'm guessing that Mark Ryan is also with us crispy people. Actually, you know what? I'm going to text Mark right now, which will completely shock him, and ask him. That's what I'm going to do right now.
No further than Boll & Branch. Boll & Branch makes the softest organic sheets on the market using 100% sustainable raw materials. As the first fair trade certified manufacturer of linen, you can feel as good about your sheets as they feel against your skin. Plus, Boll & Branch focuses on quality over quantity because higher thread counts are not always better. Their signature hem sheets are made from lightweight organic cotton that gets softer with every wash. And they come in 7 colors from twin up to California King. Best of all, Boll & Branch gives you a fair price and a 30-day risk-free trial with free shipping and returns. So experience the best sheets you've ever felt, only at bollandbranch.com. Get 15% off your first set when you use promo code SAVE at checkout. That's Boll & Branch, BOLLANE branch.com. Promo code SAVE.
My heart was racing just making spaghetti. I could have waited to tell my doctor, but I didn't wait.
All right, I have texted Mark Ryan, but I'm sure he's busy at show prep, so he hasn't answered me back about the crispy or floppy bacon. We already know that Diesel has chosen crispy bacon. Is it a solidarity among the producers? No, because Diesel and I disagree on a lot of things, except for bacon, apparently. Will Mark Ryan answer me before the show? I don't know. He hasn't answered me yet. He's probably, I texted Mark Ryan to ask him crispy or floppy bacon. I'm waiting to see if I get an answer.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's how important this debate is to us.
I'm guessing he didn't block my number or something, but yeah, he hasn't answered the text yet. I'm so disappointed.
Oh, he's got to be setting up for the show, right?
We've got, yeah, I know. He probably hasn't even seen his phone. We got, as we know, because we could yell at him through the thing and he still would not hear it. We got 14 minutes to hear his answer. Absolutely, Steven. Prisma in the final break.
Two things real quick before we get to Twitter trending topics. First off, breaking news earlier this morning, a judge in Texas has decided that Deshaun Watson may be deposed in the civil lawsuits against him, the 22 suits, which means that a deposition can be called. He can be interviewed by attorneys. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you nothing's going to come of it, right? Because he also has the right to plead the fifth, which means he is probably going to go into these depositions, be asked a bunch of questions, and say exactly nothing at all. But it is interesting that they can bring him in and do the deposition. That means likely, though I am not an attorney, that the folks in charge of making that decision, the judge in charge of making that decision, saw something that led him or her to believe that it's worth allowing the questioning. So Not a great look for Deshaun. Like I said, he won't say anything, but the fact that they're allowing him to be deposed while there is a criminal investigation going on is a big deal. First thing I wanted to get to.
I have an answer to my text, by the way.
And?
Am I smiling?
Yeah, so it's crispy.
I am smiling. The bacon debate goes on to the point where I have texted Mark Ryan to ask him where he stands on this debate. And I quote, crispy.
Diesel just said almost the exact same sentence to me when I opened the door. It shocked me so much I said a bad word in front of Lonzo.
And the stream.
Yeah, so sorry.
We're worried about.
It shocked me. I would have sworn Diesel would have been team floppy bacon, but he's not. Twitter.com/The Rob Brown Show. I got the poll up right now. Settle the biggest, most heated debate of the month on The Rob Brown Show. Floppy bacon or crispy. 23 hours left to go, and crispy is checking in at 62% of the vote. I am shocked by that. All right, second thing I wanted to get in here real quick before we go to Twitter trending topics. If you have not seen it yet, and you can do so by going on Twitter and just searching for it, JJ Redick, we're going to play the audio of this for you tomorrow. JJ Redick, former teammate of Zion Williamson in New Orleans, just went in on Z. The Pelicans added CJ McCollum from the Trailblazers to their roster the day of the trade deadline. And CJ McCollum's a good young point guard, guy that can really add a mix between Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, if he ever gets healthy, and CJ McCollum could be a really solid trio, run a good triangle there. Well, the news is broken that CJ McCollum has been a Pelican for coming up on 2 weeks now, and Zion Williamson has not said the first word to him, has not called him, texted him, tweeted him, anything to say, hey, welcome to the squad, my dude. JJ just went in and said that shows a lack of commitment to the team of the Pelicans out of Zion Williamson. And a lot of people are going in on JJ, right? All the guys heard he's getting rehab. First off, JJ's right. And I hate to go in on a dude that played his high school ball here, but here's the thing. Zion Williamson has gotten star treatment since he was a high schooler. Zion Williamson is convinced he's the future. My dude, you ain't even the present yet, dude. And you're on my team. I'm supposed to be in your corner, bro. I'm supposed to be, of all the people in the upstate that are pulling for you to be Big Z, it should be me, the guy that's wearing Pelicans gear around the upstate. And you got me on the opposite side of the aisle from me. You ain't the future, Z, because you got to be the present first, and you can't even show up for your own squad. Come on, dog. Come on.
Does he have a history of being that kind of leader, that he reaches out to people, that he welcomes, that he does all that kind of stuff? I haven't heard that about him. He seems to be the kind of guy who just goes out and plays. So I don't think that this
I'd
is.
be happy if he showed up and played. The odds were long, right? The odds were long that Zion was going to show up and do for New Orleans what Giannis did for Milwaukee, right? Take a small market team to a title. I know the odds were long, but I was hoping. But my dude can't stay in shape enough to play and is not being the team leader when he can't play. He just flew off to Portland, screwed off up to Portland, is doing his therapy up there, ain't calling his teammates, ain't showing up to games, ain't showing up at practices to help, doing nothing.
I've been seeing Greg Oden comparisons. You'd never want to have your name beside Greg Oden.
And remember, the Pels could have potentially had Ja Morant. And instead, Keegan pointed this out the other day. The situation between Z and Ja Morant is playing out very similarly to Greg Oden and Kevin Durant. Remember? When everybody thought Oden was the future, Greg Oden's going to come change the league. Greg Oden showed up. His knees wouldn't let him play basketball. Meanwhile, Kevin Durant goes on to become the second best player in the National Basketball Association. And now all of a sudden the Pelicans might be dealing with the same thing. Z can't stay healthy enough to play. They could have had Ja Morant, who you heard Joe Giglio say an hour ago, I think the Grizz are a potential dark horse to win a title with Ja Morant. Yay, Pelicans. Twitter trending topics next on the Rob Brown Show, ESPN Upstate.
Respect.
Say about my friends at Prisma Health right here in the Upstate, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, when there is a football or basketball, baseball player over at Clemson and they get hurt, the folks at Clemson University call Prisma Health because they are the official healthcare provider for the Clemson Tigers. If a basketball, baseball, or football player at South Carolina get hurt, the Gamecock Athletic Department, they call Prisma Health because they are the official healthcare provider for the South Carolina Gamecocks Athletic Department. Ladies and gentlemen, if those two universities, both of those two universities, who don't agree on a whole heck of a lot, if both of them say, you know what, we trust Prisma Health with the health and safety and well-being of our athletes, isn't that the exact type of care, resources, and people that you want to look after your health and the health of your family? Of course it is. And it doesn't matter what kind of healthcare needs you have, right? They've got an incredible orthopedic and sports medicine department, but they can help with sleeping disorder, with psychiatric disorders, with ENTs. I mean, the basics. If there's a healthcare situation that you need help with, you need to call the people that Clemson and South Carolina call. You need to call my friends at Prisma Health. They can get you set up with one of their thousands of medical healthcare providers around the upstate. They have a facility that is close and convenient to you, ladies and gentlemen. It's just that simple. Go to prismahealth.org to learn more. Prismahealth.org. It's our friends at Prisma Health right here in the upstate. Now, see, Stephen, I get it. Like I said, crispy bacon has its place on a sandwich, right? Crispy bacon on a BLT, crispy bacon on a bacon cheeseburger, crispy bacon on a salad. That's where crispy bacon belongs. But if you're just making a plate of bacon, it's got to be floppy, man. Team floppy bacon all day, every day. Two for two.
It'll be up to like 74, 75 degrees by the end of the week. Did you know that? It's going to rain too, but you know.
I'm here for it. I'm ready to bust the shorts back out. I've been in jeans for 8 months.
I haven't worn jeans since COVID, but started since they closed the building down. I'm looking forward to shorts though. Shorts and peasant shoes.
Peasant shoes.
Let the toes breathe.
Oh.
It's not good when you write down a number and you have no idea what number you actually wrote down.
Come again?
So my writing is so bad on something that I can't figure out what I wrote.
Got it. I had to start putting, when I make a 7, I do the little bar across the middle because of how many times I've written a 7, but then couldn't figure out if I wrote a 7 or a 1. So that's how I have to distinguish between the two.
Well, this is either a C or possibly a 5, an incomplete 5. I'm gonna go with the 5 since it's a
Since it's a number?
It's a number. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the 5.
Are you writing in Roman numerals?
Well, it could have been 20 cents, but no, I don't think so. right, time for Twitter trending topics. First thing that is trending is the USFL.
So, no, we don't have time. I'll play it for you tomorrow. The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, a wrestler turned entertainer, announced earlier in, I guess yesterday, that the USFL actually has formed a partnership with the NFL. And effectively, the NFL is going to offer resources and support to the USFL. And in return, they're going to be able to use the USFL as kind of a testing ground, right? If the NFL wants to experiment with new rules or new protocols or new formations or whatever, they'll call the USFL and go, hey, we want to try this rule out. And the USFL is going to put them into place in return for support from the NFL. I think it's a great idea, Alonzo, because the only way you're going to survive more than a year or two is to have the NFL supporting you to some degree. So to kind of be their experiment dish, I think it's a great idea for Dwayne Johnson.
All right, one last.
And delicious. Go to twitter.com/ESPN Upstate and vote on why bacon is better floppy. It's just that good, ladies and gentlemen. That's it for us. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel are up next with Offsides. For Lonzo, my name's Rob. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out. We're back tomorrow to try harder on the Rob Brown Show and ESPN Upstate. Later, brother.